Hashem Naaseh v'Natzliach, shiur Torah, Baruch Hashem. We're back at the Breslov Center. Tonight we're going to continue our MUSSAR series, B'ezrat Hashem. That same Mishnah, chapter 6, Mishnah number 7. Just as a heads up, as I said to anyone that was there on Sunday, no shiurim next week, but also tonight, B'ezrat Hashem, is going to be our last shiur at this location. The next time that we do shiurim, as far as our Tuesday, will be a different location. B'ezrat Hashem, you'll get the details probably in the next week or so. I'll let you know where we're doing it. It's a couple of options. But Baruch Hashem, every so often you have to change location. You have to change things to hopefully try to bring some new faces, try to bring some kedusha to a different location, B'ezrat Hashem. But we owe a lot of akarat tov to this place. We've been doing shiurim here already for about 2 years. We started the series originally at my house, but then shortly after, I think after maybe like the 6th or 7th lecture in the series, we already started doing it over here and a couple of other places. So Baruch Hashem, we owe them akarat tov, a lot of chidushim here. Baruch Hashem, a lot of baalei teshuva have watched the shiurim, have done teshuva because of the shiurim here. So Baruch Hashem, a lot of kedusha has happened, and of course, like anything else in the world, we thank Hashem for giving us the opportunity, and pray that the next place will be even more successful, for the sake of Am Yisrael, for the sake of Hashem Yitbarach, for our sake. So make sure that you're following the page on Facebook, the website be'ezathashem.org, all of, the WhatsApp groups, all of those different tools that we used for the sake of communicating. Be connected to at least one of them so you know what's going on. You don't show up here in a couple of weeks and there's no one here. B'ezrat Hashem, B'ezrat Hashem. The shiur tonight is also going to be for Ilu Nishmat David ben Mas'uda, and also a refuah shlema to Viola bat Zora, David ben Nasriya, Doris bat Zora, Levana bat Sarah, Rabbanit Sarah bat Anat, Elisheva Chaya bat Sarah, and also for a refuah shlema for Vimesh, our dear Vimesh, had a tooth surgery. Shem Hashem. I wouldn't want to have a tooth surgery, but he tells me about it, and God bless. I've had too many of them. So B'ezrat Hashem, Hashem gives him refuah shlema, and also for Hatzlacha Rabba to a few people. Hatzlacha Rabba for, in regards to business, in regards to marriage, success, everything and anything. To Esther bat Shoshana, to Yosef David ben Phoebe, to Betzalel ben Avraham, Naomi bat Sarah, Sani and Batya, and B'ezrat Hashem, all of you guys that are coming to the shiurim and studying with me, Baruch Hashem. B'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will give you a lot of hatzlacha, parnasa tova, chaim arokim, shlemim, meleim Torah, mitzvot, gmilut chasadim. And all of the people that are watching and donating online, or just watching but not donating, you have blessing, B'ezrat Hashem too. Maybe B'ezrat Hashem you'll have enough blessing that you can donate. I see the same two, 3 people every week. After I go home, I look at the comments on Facebook, and people say hi, and I see who's watching. And the same 2, 3 tzaddikim always say donate, 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 but no one ever listens. It's once in a while somebody listens. But imagine how much schut a person has if you actually get somebody to donate. Why? Because here it says, if you donate, ashrecha, you donated $10, $100, $1,000, whatever you donated, good, ashrecha. But Torah says that a person that leads another person to do a mitzvah is even bigger. So you lead somebody else to donate. You get your rich uncle to donate. You get your rich parents to donate. You get your partner, your this, your that to donate. Ashrecha, ashrecha v'ashrecha l'kecha. Anyway, the amount of information that's in this Mishnah really has no end, as usual, because we're talking about psukim in the Torah, but we'll try to, B'ezrat Hashem, try to finish this Mishnah this week. If not today, then tomorrow, B'ezrat Hashem. Now, the Mishnah also coincides with our weekly parasha, Parashat Ki Tisa. Parashat Ki Tisa is massive parasha, full of chidushim, full of things that are life-changing. Anyone that reads this parasha will realize very quickly that this is one of those parashot that not only should you follow the halacha of shtay mikra v'echad targum, that you read the parasha twice and commentary once, but really, if you can, you should read it 5 times, 10 times, 100 times. Why? Because there's a lot of information in it. You know, you have from the disaster that happens to a person that's mechalel Shabbat, or an idol worshiper, which in the eyes of Hashem, this is one of the parashot that proves that it's considered the same thing. It's one of the sources that shows that someone that drives on Shabbat knowingly, not that he's driving to a hospital to save somebody's life, or that he doesn't know he's Jewish. Somebody that's a Jew, knows he's a Jew, knows that you're not allowed to drive on Shabbat, but decides to do it anyway. He drives to Beit Knesset on Shabbat, for example. Anyone that drives to Beit Knesset on Shabbat, you should know for sure, is 100% not even close to being a tinok shenishba. There's anyone that tells you that a person that drives to Beit Knesset on Shabbat is a tinok shenishba, you should send them to the police. Call 911. Why? Because they're liars, thieves, and everything else. They're stealing neshamot. Why? Because in essence, even if someone wanted to use the argument of a tinok shenishba, meaning a captured baby, you cannot use it on a secular people if they know that they're Jewish and they know that there's something called Shabbat. The tinok shenishba that the Chazon Ish and others, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, for example, refer to, that's somewhat similar to a secular person that was, grew up in communist Russia, that it was forbidden to even practice religion and things like that. They were saying, listen, the guy in Russia, that if he practiced Judaism, they would have potentially killed him. That guy, his kid grew up not knowing anything. If he drives on Shabbat, you can't judge him the same way as a guy that his father took him to Beit Knesset even a few times a year. You can't judge him the same way. But a person that's secular, that goes to Beit Knesset, is not that. Why? Because if he goes to Beit Knesset, by default, he knows he's Jewish. And if he goes to Beit Knesset, by default, he knows that there are certain laws, and we have 7 days a week. And there's one day called Shabbat. And that Shabbat is different than the rest of the week. On that day, you don't light fire. Every normal, secular person knows it. So, anyone that drives to Beit Knesset on Shabbat is 100% never going to be considered a tinok shenishba by anybody's consideration. So, anyone that tells you that, which unfortunately there are some liars in the world that do that, to tell people, no, continue to drive, it's okay, don't tell him anything, it's just shogeg, he doesn't really know. Anyone that pretends is going to be judged in Shemaim as a murderer that has no share of the world to come, though. Not just a regular murderer. A murderer that has no share of the world to come, because they pretty much took somebody's soul away. They could have easily told the guy, stop driving on Shabbat, and let him decide for himself. They decided to take away his decision. Now, of course, Hashem is going to come to this person in a different way, needless to say. But the point is that we need to know that when it comes to this parasha, this is one of those parashot that you don't need to be a big Talmid Chacham in order to know what it says. It's very simple. It's very simple to understand. It's Hashem says, Mechalel Shabbat has 3 deaths. Death in this world, meaning his life potentially is cut short, or his kids die early during his lifetime, Hashem Elachem, which the Gemara says is the worst punishment you could have in this world. Parents seeing their own kids die in their own lifetime. So that's karet in this world. Karet in this world is Hashem Elachem, either a person dying before the age of 60, or his kids dying during his lifetime, or both, or even more, because again, that's one karet. That's one chilul Shabbat. That's if he just simply turned on the light once. That's it. Not he drove the car. He drove the car. That's could be a million chilul Shabbats. One of my students that's an engineer, he did the research on based on the RPMs and all the different things in the car. He says when you drive 15 minutes in the car, an average car, not you're driving a Formula One, you're not in a race car, regular car, you're in a Honda Accord or something. You're driving 15 minutes, minimum, you've violated Shabbat somewhere in the neighborhood of 60,000 times. Minimum, like 60,000 times. That's 60,000 karetz, Shem Erachem. What are you going to do? You have to have a community do tshuva to fix that. But you can. Why? You give them a CDs, which we're giving for free now. You can have a whole community do tshuva. So anyway, that's the first karet. That's what it says in Parashat Kitisa. Second death penalty is obviously no share of the world to come. Gemara Masechet Shabbat, Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah, Gemara Masechet Sanhedrin, and several others talk about who does not have a share of the world to come. And unfortunately, for those people that are still violating Shabbat, they are on that list. They're on that list, and it's very sad because they're not the only ones on the list. According to recent statistics, somewhere between 80 to 90% of Am Yisrael are mechalelei Shabbat. So now, if we're talking about a nation of, let's say, 20 million people that we know of, okay, all of our friends, our cousins, our this, our that, all the people we love, most likely, a large part of them are mechalelei Shabbat. And the parasha in this week's parasha, chapter 31, verse number 14, says, "V'nichreta nefesh ha'im mikerev hamea." Says this person has a very serious problem after he got the 2 death penalties in this world and the next. What's the third one? V'nichreta nefesh ha'im mikerev hamea. His soul is cut off. Well, okay, he died twice already. This world, next world. What else do you want from this guy? Poor guy. He just drove on Shabbat. He says, no. So there's no poor guy here. Why? Hashem gave him many chances. Hashem gave her many chances in their lifetime to find the truth, because that's how Hashem runs the world. And they chose not to keep Shabbat. Nobody leaves this world ignorant. Anyone that thinks that is a kofer b'Torah. No one leaves this world ignorant. There's no such thing. You knew, you just decided not to. You may not know all the details of Gehenom and Kafakela and this and the Gemara here and the Gemara. You don't know all those things, but you know right from wrong. In reality, you know it already as a kid. You decide to ignore it for a little while, then it comes back to you again at some point because you have some type of mashber, some type of crisis in your life. Something happens, you start asking big questions. What's the point of life? What's the point of death? Why this? Why they start asking questions? You're in your 20s. Your mind's going all over the place. You watched a show on Discovery Channel. It switched your whole thinking over again. You're not sure. Is this? Is that? Did we really cross the Sea of Reeds? Did we not? Because somebody did a program and it said yes. And somebody said no. But Stephen Hawking says that there was nothing before something. But yet, how does something start from nothing? And you're confused. You start asking big questions. You start looking at things and you start seeing that there's certain things that you're doing don't really make much sense. You're violating your own morals. But if you decide to ignore it for a little while longer, you continue for another 5 or 10 years. And then again and again, several times during everybody's life, whether you're a Jew or Gentile, Hashem comes to you in different ways to show you the truth. No one leaves this world ignorant of the truth. You may not know the full truth, but you know the truth does exist. You know the difference between right and wrong. And when you leave this world, you know whether you did right or wrong. You can fake it in the eyes of everybody else, but inside you, you know for sure if you did right or wrong. You know for sure. You may pretend, oh, you're this Mr. Nice Guy, you're this, you're that. You can pretend to everybody. But when you get to Shamayim, there's no pretending. So what does it mean? V'nichreta nefesh ha'im mikerev hamea. Says that Hashem does not have this weakness like us, that we have this desire to be politically correct and even be nice to evil people. And he says, you violated my Shabbat despite my many messages. You should know you are cut off from the people. What does it mean? It means that you are not considered halachically Jewish according to halacha at that point, meaning that although if you do tshuva today, you're automatically Jewish. You don't have to go to a mikveh. You don't have to go to a conversion. But if you did not do tshuva, they cannot use you as a Jew in Jewish ceremonies. For example, if they wanted to do shchita, they say, oh, somebody here know how to be a shochet, do a slaughtering? You raise your hand. You say, oh no, we're sorry, sir. We're sorry, we cannot take your shchita. Why? Because the halakha says that we cannot take shchita from an idol worshiper. And you're from Echalel Shabbat, you're considered an idol worshiper. Sorry. We like you, you're a nice guy. We'll go out for coffee with you one time if you want. Teach you why you shouldn't be a Echalel Shabbat. But as far as shchita, we cannot eat your shchita. Yeah, but I'm really good at it. Okay, you might be really good at it and the animal doesn't suffer, but it's not about good or not good. It's about, is the shochet kosher? Then we worry about if the animal's kosher. If the animal's kosher, but the shochet's not kosher, aitzemi tameh tameh. Someone that's impure produces impure. So then you go and move on, you say, okay, fine. What about if my brother is getting married, my cousin's getting married, and he wants to use me as a witness? Well, we're going to ask you, if you're going to be a witness to this wedding, we need two witnesses. Are you a Shomer Shabbat? He says, no, Shabbat's not for me. But I love my brother. I love my sister. I love my cousin. I want to be a witness. They invited me to be a witness. We're sorry, sir. You cannot be a witness. Why? An idol worshiper cannot be considered a witness in a Jewish ceremony. Cannot be. Cannot be. Yeah, but I really love them. Okay, love them and after the wedding. But you cannot be a witness in a Jewish ceremony. Why? Because you're B'chal Shabbat. You have a serious problem with Hashem. What about if we're having a minyan? We want to build a minyan. We need 10 people. 10 people. We have 10 people, Baruch Hashem. And number 10 shows up. Rabbi, listen. I know this guy just came in. He has tzitzit on. He has a kippah on. He has a beard longer than yours, right? Yeah. He doesn't keep Shabbat though. What do you mean? What do you mean he doesn't keep Shabbat? He goes, no, everybody knows. He drove here. Car's right there. He drove here. Oh, can't count him for minyan. Can't count him for minyan. Why you can't count him for minyan? Because he's put himself in. He put himself in a status. We didn't do it to him. Hashem didn't do it to him. He did it to himself. He did it to himself. He decided to drive on Shabbat. He's considered an idol worshiper. Meaning, we love him. We want to do tshuva. We pray for him. But as far as minyan, we cannot count him for minyan. Cannot count him for minyan. Why? You have to look at it this way. Hashem created the world in a certain way that shows his mercy. Shows his mercy. Where he, in essence, he's not bound to time. He's not bound to time. Hashem doesn't have time. Doesn't have concept of time. He created time. Which means that he can't be bound to time. So Hashem says the following. He says, I created time, but I wanted you to feel like me. So I created something that will give you that feeling. I created the world in a certain way where I limited myself by extending the creation into 7 days. Really 6 days, but rested on the 7th. He didn't need 6 days to create the world. He created really the world in an instant. The Zohar Kadosh says that he created everything in an instant, and he put all the pieces in outer space, and then over the next 6 days, he just put the right things in the right places, like a puzzle. Everything was like that. There was no actual concept of time. And then he put everything in the right place, the moon over here, and the stars over here, and the water here, and the water there, and so on and so forth. Why did he do it this way? He says, because if I would have created everything in an instant, then there would be no separation between one day or the other, because there's no difference between one day or the other, and therefore everything would be the same. So if I told you, listen, you should keep Shabbat, you say, why? There's no difference. If it's the 7th day, or the 6th day, or the 9th day, or the 20th day, it's all the same. So I did something different. I limited myself by extending the creation into 6 days, and then stopping myself from creating, from further creating on the 7th, because that is something we can do in common. I can stop creating, and you can stop creating. You can't create, but you can stop creating. So I did all of this for you, so you can feel like me, which means Hashem limited himself for you and for me. Now, if you're not willing to stop your creation on Shabbat, to stop driving your cars, to stop playing with your phones, to stop electronics, to stop working, to stop playing with money, to stop talking about business, you're not willing to stop creating business deals and others on Shabbat, that means that you are kfui tovah. You're an ungrateful person. Why? Hashem stopped himself for you, but you're not willing to stop yourself for him? So he says, if you're not willing, fine, then we have nothing to do with each other. Then you're cut off from the people. Not that I want you to be cut off from the people, Chas v'shalom. I created you to give you good. But you chose that way. You chose to be cut off. So fine, you're cut off. Gehenom is not a punishment like people think Hashem is trying to take revenge on people like he has nothing to do. If he wanted to punish people just for the sake of punishing, he wouldn't even bring them to this world. He just put them in Gehenom, and just watch it all day. Yeah, like a TV. Oh, wow, look at him. Look, he's on fire. Look. Ah, Malach, wow, Gabriel, look what's happening when the lava falls on him. Look. What do you think? Hashem has nothing to do. Is this coming to somebody's head? No, Gehenom is a consequence of our own actions. A person writes his own check. If you do mitzvot, Baruch Hashem, you have olam haba, you have reward, you have extraordinary life here, extraordinary life there. There's nobody better than you. If you don't, what are you going to do in Gan Eden? They learn Torah all day, all night. What are you going to do over there? You don't learn Torah over here. How are you going to go over there and learn Torah? If you're going to go over there to Gan Eden, I said, listen, you have the key. What key? Key is the mitzvot. No, I don't have any mitzvot. Oh, so you can't enter. So what can I enter for no key? Oh, the other place, no key. It's open door policy. But it doesn't close after you get in. It's hot. So Gehenom is not Hashem taking revenge on people simply because he has nothing to do. It's pretty much us taking our own neshamot from ourselves. Now, when a person hears some of the things that we just said in the first few minutes, he should be able to start thinking for himself, am I on that list? Do I know enough, even if he thinks he's keeping Shabbat? Because he doesn't drive. He doesn't do some of the things I said. Does he not do everything? We have 39 melachot, but every one of the 39, Chazal says that's another 39. Do the math. You're talking about almost 1,600 different halachot. We don't even know the 39, most of us. Forget about the 39 that come from each 39. So the reality is that the Chafetz Chaim says that if you don't study the Hilchot Shabbat at least 3 times, definitely you're violating Shabbat. Not maybe. Definitely you're violating Shabbat. Why? You don't know how to keep it. So the point is, now of course there's a difference between Shogeg and Mezid, but the Mishnah in Avot says, Gagat Talmud Ola Zadon, that if your accidental sin comes as a result of your intentional lack of study, then it's considered an intentional sin too. So you can't go up there and say, oh no, I didn't study. Oh, you didn't study? That's on purpose, you didn't study. So now, this week's parasha, already in the beginning, gives every single human being that listens to it and reads it clearly, literally, doesn't even have to be a genius, just reads it basically, Rashi commentary. He already arrives at the first couple of pages, he realizes, I have some work to do. Why? I have to make sure, number one, I'm not on that list of people that violate Shabbat. Number two, I have to make sure I stay off that list. Not only am I not on that list now, I have to make sure I stay off that list. So I got to learn everything I need to learn to make sure that I'm not on that list. Number 3, what's number 3? Who do I know that's on this list that I care about? My brother, my sister, my uncle, my this, my that. I don't want them to be on this list. I don't want them to be cut off. I don't want them to go to Gehenom. I don't want them to be punished, and so on and so forth. Why? You're going to be in Gan Eden by yourself? What about all your friends and family? You're going to leave them? What kind of Gan Eden are you going to have? So you got to do something about it. So already within the first couple of pages of the parasha, already a person starts doing tshuva. Chatanu avinu pashanu. Hashem, I got work to do. If he passes this and he feels nothing, that means he probably just made the sounds, but didn't understand the words. Many people make the sounds, but they don't understand the words. That's why I always suggest for people to read the weekly parasha in their first language. What does their first language mean? First language doesn't mean the first language you ever spoke. Doesn't mean that. Why? Because the first language I ever spoke is Hebrew. Doesn't make it my first language. I was born in Israel. I came to the United States when I was 10 years old, 150 years ago. But it doesn't make it my first language. Why? Because 75% of my life I've been speaking English, which means that I've developed my English drastically more than I did my Hebrew to the extent that many times in my dreams, more times than not, when I actually remember my dream, it's in English. So if you want to know what is my first language, you don't have to ask anybody. Don't even ask your wife. Ask yourself, what language do I dream in? What language do I dream in? The language you dream in, that's your first language. No, but I really understand Hebrew well. Good for you. That's not your first language, though. Read it until you get to a point where you're extremely comfortable with the Hebrew language, the Sfat HaKodesh, the this, the that, the Torah, how it is structured, how to study, how to this, how to that. Until then, you must learn it in your first language, the language that you dream. Meaning that even when you're subconscious, you're not even all there, that's what you understand. Why? Because that means that it's guaranteed you'll understand. After you read it in that language, you read it in any other language you want. You can read it in the second language, third language, eighth language, ninth language, whatever you want. If you're part of the Sanhedrin, 70 languages, whatever you want, but first language first. So already in the beginning of the parasha, we see something extraordinary. We see that all of us have to do serious tshuva just for that. Now it comes and it says a little bit more. It says actually, later on in the parasha, it says that Am Yisrael made a very big mistake. And when they were fooled by the Satan, in chapter 32, it says, Vayara Am ki boshesh Moshe laredet min ha'ar. The people saw that Moshe had delayed in descending from the mountain. So the word delayed in Sfat HaKodesh is boshesh. Chazal says, what is boshesh? Don't say boshesh, say beshesh. Boshesh means delayed. Beshesh means 6. What does it mean 6? Moshe Rabbeinu was delayed by 6 hours. They thought he's going to come at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, let's say. He didn't come at 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Why? He was actually supposed to come at 6 p.m. Not at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, but they held him to it at 12 o'clock, and then the Yetzirah saw that they had an opening. They're already questioning the whole thing. Lapetach hatat rovetz. Hashem said to Cain, if you leave the opening, you leave the sin to the opening, it's going to take over the whole house. So they started questioning things. The Yetzirah got his opening. He came over there and gave them the first projector in history. He gave them a nice movie showing them angels carrying the body of Moshe Rabbeinu. Fooling all of them to think that Moshe Rabbeinu died. Why? Because they started questioning Hashem. You question Hashem, more tests are coming. So after this, unfortunately, we made a very, very big mistake that followed, which was that we let the Erev Rav worship their golden calf. And if you remember, what followed is that after Moshe Rabbeinu came down and broke the 10 Commandments, he told Am Yisrael something extraordinary. Mi le'Hashem elai. Whoever's for Hashem, join me. What does it mean, join me? Join me for what? Kill all the sinners. Whoever's for Hashem, kill the sinners. Who were the ones that joined them? The Leviim. Nobody else joined them, just the Leviim. That's also part of the reason why the Leviim got the Keunah, and they got rewarded for eternity because of it. So now the Chazal asks a very interesting question. Why is it that Hashem made Am Yisrael punish their own family? Now if you say, listen, Amalek is a sinner, Am Yisrael, go kill them. Thank you. Thank you. Can I do it all day? Why? The Rashaim, kill them, fine, no problem. But why do I have to kill a cousin? A brother, or this, or that? Why? Okay, he sinned. You kill him, Hashem. Why do I have to kill him? You kill him, Hashem. He sinned against you, not against me. I'm not God. He didn't worship an idol against me. He worshiped an idol against you. Why do I have to kill him? It's an interesting question. What's the answer? This is the detailed midah keneged midah. Measure for measure. You didn't rebuke him and get him to do tshuva, then you have to punish him. It was in your hands to save him. You chose not to save him, you're going to kill him then. You're going to kill him. Because that's how we're judging you in Shamayim anyway. Am Yisrael did not rebuke Erev Rav, go kill them. The problem is the Erev Rav doesn't actually die. They keep getting reincarnated in every single generation until Mashiach comes. But this is the reason why Chazal explains that Hashem actually allowed the Leviim, Tzadikim, Kedoshim to go become killers. Killers. Already, we read the parasha already however many times in our life, and already we start seeing things in a little bit of a different perspective this year. Showing us this Mishnah coming true, Gdolat Torah she'i notenet chaim le'osea ba'olam hazeh u'ba'olam haba. The Mishnah in Avot that we're up to says the Torah, the great is the Torah, for it confers life upon its practitioners both in this world and the world to come. Shene'emar ki chaim em למוצאם ולכל בשרו מרפא, ואומר רפאות היא לשריך ושיקוי לעצמותיך, ואומר עץ חיים היא למחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר, ואומר כי לוויית חן היא לראשך וענקים לגרגרותיך, ואומר תיתן לראשך לוויית חן עטרת תפארת תמגנך, ואומר כי בי ירבו ימיך ויוסיפו לך שנות חיים, ואומר אורך ימים בימינה, בשמאלה עושר וכבוד, ואומר אורך ימים ושנות חיים ושלום יוסיפו לך. Translation: Great is the Torah, for it confers life upon its practitioners, both in this world and the world to come. This we already talked about, of how a person that follows Torah benefits enormously in this world, not just in the next world that is hard for him to imagine. In this world. Just simply look at the religious kids versus the not religious kids. I'm not talking about the kids that wear a kippah. I'm talking about religious kids. Kids that actually have Yirat Shamayim. Kids that were taught Mussar during their life. Kids that actually were taught that Yirat Shamayim is the foundation of Judaism. Kids that love Torah. You see them growing up at any age. 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 15, 20. You see that kid growing up versus your average secular Jewish kid that may be very cute, but the cuteness goes away after a little while. The cuteness goes away. The zits appear instead. The attitude appears instead. The new ways appear instead. All the other stuff appears instead. The totzao, the results of our actions, of ignoring this kid, come up. And all of a sudden, this cute little 3-year-old turns into a 14-year-old with an attitude who wants to borrow his dad's car, but dad doesn't want him to, so he just decides to steal the car. And since you called him, and he answered your phone because he stole the phone too, and you sounded really upset, he decided he's not going to come home for 3 or 4 days. You know how many houses stuff like this is happening on a regular basis? I have one woman told me that her son beat her up 2 weeks ago. Her own son beat her up. Started kicking her. The Torah says kill him. If it's Sanhedrin, they'd kill him on the spot. In fact, if a child curses their parents, Torah says to kill him. Curses. Almost every house, something comes out. Give my phone, Mom. Oh, F this, F that. Ooh, what? By the time he says all the Fs, he forgot how to say good morning. Your average secular kid simply does not know how to behave. So, as a parent, already you're a winner. If you sent this kid to Limud Torah in a real school, but you didn't just leave it at the school. You brought it home too. If you sent the kid to the best yeshiva in the world, but he comes home to a modern half and half, sometimes milk, sometimes black coffee, a type of house, guess what? He's worse than secular. Because he's more confused. The secular thinks he's right. Eventually he realizes on his own that he's wrong. The religious knows he's right. Why? Because that's what he sees. The one that's 50-50, what does he think? He thinks everything's a joke. He's the one that becomes a heretic. He's the one that becomes the one that makes fun of the Torah. Many times. Not all the time, many times. And the reason why is because he saw his parents make fun of the Torah. They sent him to a religious school, but he came back to a secular house. So he views the Torah as a joke. Like a uniform. And unfortunately, that kid is worse off than most. Becomes very, very confused. So already, anyone that wants to be a parent should do themselves a favor and do tshuva immediately. Because that already is going to give you much bigger protection when it comes to your children. If you don't have the Torah laws, the strict Torah laws in your life, guess what? Your laws will fail. If your laws don't agree, if your laws in your own house, your own logic laws, even if you're religious, sometimes you have laws that are not exactly Torah laws. Like this one woman decided to make a comment on one of our videos we did recently about the proof that the Hasidim in all of their books discussed Gehenom. We just brought many proofs. So she decided to make a comment, well, would I go to Gehenom if I don't believe in Gehenom? Guess what? A comment like that is actually going to get you to Gehenom. Why? Because you're making fun of the Torah. Udvar Hashem bazah. She's not saying it in a question answer. She's making fun of the whole thing. And she puts like a lot of smiles, and she made a lot of comments that caused other people to start questioning it. I'm just giving you the short description. She starts making fun of it. Am I going to go to Gehenom if I don't believe in Gehenom? So a person like this, you would think, oh, she must be a heretic, she must be an atheist, she must be a Christian or something, or religious Jewish. Kisur Rosh and everything. Kisur Rosh, everything. You see her in the streets, like, wow, tzadikah. Tzadikah. Today, she wasn't. She failed miserably. Miserably. Why? Because she caused at least 3 people to question a lot of things. So, sometimes your own logic, because of ignorance, because of rationale that's flawed, because of bias, and so on and so forth, sometimes your logic is not going to agree with Hashem. And you should know that if you practice this logic that's against Hashem, you're never going to win. In the end, it's always a loss. So if you're going to have rules in your house, certain discipline, certain guidance, certain things to raise your children, to run your marriage, to run your business, and so on and so forth. If your rules agree with Hashem, Chazaku Baruch, you're going to succeed in life. Even though it seems like you're some crazy fanatic that's from the ancient history, you'll see in the end, everybody's going to come for you to bless them. Because you're the only one that his life is working out. On the other hand, you go with your own rules, or you go with like 50-50. Or 75-30, or 90-10. How many screws does it take to blow up a missile? Screws, not a missile blowing up a missile. How many screws? Like for example, NASA, every time it sent a missile to outer space, they claim they went to the moon, but that's questionable. But they sent it to outer space. Sent all these satellites and things like that. They sent missiles. Each one of these missiles cost them hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, in some cases billions of dollars, but a few times they blew up. Meaning they worked on something for a few years. Each missile has over 1 million parts. 1 million parts. Even if you took 1 million little screws, not even 1 million big parts, 1 million little screws, you could fill up this whole room. 1 million little screws. So how many of those little screws does it take to blow up a missile? Screw. How many? 1. That's what happened in the most recent crash. 1 screw was loose. It wasn't even like missing. It was loose a little bit. And they were able to identify that's the screw that blew up the whole thing. This, Rabotai, is something we need to apply. Hashem gave us such a tragedy in order for us to learn Mussar from it. This is what could ruin also our own Olam Haba. 1 screw. we decide we're going to listen to 90% of what Hashem says. But the last 10%, I don't feel like it. It's not for me. People are going to make fun of me. You know, all the women, they wear like clothes that are not exactly modest. So what? I'm going to be Mrs. Safta here. I'm going to be grandmother. I'm going to wear mother's clothes. No. I'll keep Shabbat. I'll keep kosher. I'll keep Tarat Mishpacha. I'll even organize shiurim. I'll do Kiruv all day, all night. Modesty, not so much for me. Not so much. Seems like it's only one small thing. You did all the other mitzvot. Oh, I'm sorry. That's more than a screw. That's half the missile. So, yeah?
The age-old question, why are there people who are following nothing and succeeding? People married to Gentiles, people
Sure.
People not listening and
At all.
Whatever.
Right, not listening at all. So we have a Torah that gives us all the answers, Baruch Hashem. In a Torah, we have every answer that you can possibly imagine for the questions you have and the questions that you don't even know you have. One of those parashot is Parashat Va'etchanan. Va'etchanan is called Va'etchanan because it starts with Moshe Rabbeinu begging Hashem to allow him to go into Eretz Yisrael. So Va'etchanan means that Moshe Rabbeinu begged how many times? 515 times. Because the numerical value of Va'etchanan is 515. From there we learn the secret that Moshe Rabbeinu begged 515 times until Hashem said, Rav lach. Enough. Stop asking for it. I don't want to let you go into Eretz Yisrael for different reasons. Enough. So we learn a lot in this parasha. This is in the end of the Torah, the end of the book of Deuteronomy. In the end of that parasha, Hashem gives us your answer. He says, "V'yadata ki Adonai Elohecha hu ha'Elohim ha'el ha'ne'eman shomer ha'brit v'ha'chesed le'ohavav u'l'shomrei mitzvotav le'elef dor u'meshalem le'sonav el panav le'avido lo ya'acher le'sono el panav yishalem lo." Translation, chapter 7, verse number 9 in the book of Deuteronomy. Hashem says, or Moshe Rabbeinu says in the name of Hashem, you must know that Hashem your God, He is the God, the faithful God, who safeguards the covenant and the kindness for those who love Him and for those who observe His commandments for thousands of generations. Already we learned that one thing, those that love Him and those that observe His commandments are the same. Meaning that if they don't observe the commandments, it's not considered that they love Him, which is what we learn in the next one. And He repays His enemies, meaning the ones that don't keep His covenants, in their lifetime, in order to make them perish. He shall not delay for His enemy, in their lifetime He shall repay him. Meaning that Hashem Yitbarach actually pays the wicked in their lifetime. Why does He pay them in their lifetime? Because this life, although it seems long, especially when we have problems, it's really not. On a grand scheme of things, this life is going to appear to us like a dream. What is it like? Sometimes somebody has a nightmare. Some people have something called night terrors. Just the name itself is scary, but in reality, the night terror is even more scary. I know somebody, a couple of somebodies, that had night terrors. It's a very serious problem with almost no solution other than tshuva. Scientists have no idea what to do with it. Psychologists don't understand it. It's a disaster and a half. It's pretty much a person having dream after dream of being terrorized in the most awesome, vicious ways you could possibly imagine, making my shiur about Gehenom like puppies. Some people have this on a regular basis, literally every night. Just imagine the worst thing you can imagine, times it by 100, that's their dream every day. That's what they have. Imagine Holocaust times 100 every day. Now when they're experiencing it, guess what? It feels like forever. Because there's no concept of time in a dream. So they experience it, they feel like it's 1,000 years. It's 100,000 years. It's 50 million, it could be forever. Like Rabbi Yaron Reuven, his near-death experience, he told me privately after the lecture, he goes, listen, what I said, it's not even 1% of 1% of 1% of what actually happened. What I said, the whole 3-hour lecture that he has, It's not 1% of 1% of 1% of what actually happened. Why? It would take me 1 billion years to tell you what actually happened. Not to tell you what happened. Imagine how long it felt and what it was. Now, when a person wakes up from this night terror, this nightmare, guess what? It feels like he just went to sleep 2 minutes ago. It feels like nothing. Somebody can have a dream that feels like 1,000,000 years. But it's no longer than 9.5 seconds. 9.5 seconds is the longest dream, according to these scientists. But every one of these people that's suffering from nightmares and night terrors sure feels like it's a lot more than 9 seconds. Every one of these wives that has their husband waking up sweating bullets says, what happened? What happened? She's like, honey, you were only asleep for 2.5 minutes. What's wrong with you? What 2.5 minutes? I was in Kuwait, and then Saudi Arabia, and then they did this to me, and then they did that to me, and then they this, and that, he has just to tell the story takes a half hour. She goes, honey, you were sleeping for 2 minutes. You told me a story that took a half hour of something that took place 150 years. Why? Because there's no concept of time. So now, going back to the answer, Hashem pays his haters, the people that are violating Shabbat, the people that are married to Goyim, the people that are not keeping Mitzvot in their lifetime. Why? Because every Jew, whether intentionally or unintentionally, will fulfill some level of Mitzvot. Will fulfill some level of Mitzvot in their lifetime. They'll give some tzedakahs to a homeless person. They'll invite some miserable person to their house and give them some guidance. Do chesed. They'll say a bracha once in a while just because it looks weird. They're surrounded by Jewish people that are religious. They'll have a bar mitzvah. They'll put on their tefillin once in a while when the Chabadnik comes over to their office. They'll do some mitzvot here and there. Hashem says, you're in this world like a dream. You're in this world for 70, 80, 90, 100 years. It's nothing. Why? In comparison to eternity. In comparison to eternity, even 1,000,000 years is nothing. 1,000,000 years. What part, let's say if you divide, if we do a division. 1, how much is that out of 2? 50%, right? 1 is 1 out of 2. 50 is how much out of 100? Also 50%. Okay? 1,000 is how much out of 10,000? 10%. Right? We're all good in the same math? Okay, you can use your phones for calculators. Now, 150 years. How much is that out of infinity? 0. There's no number. Nothing. It's not even 0.0000. It's 0. It's absolute 0. It's irrelevant. The calculator says NA. Not available. Broken calculator. Supercomputer. Broken. Why? It's a stupid question. Infinity doesn't end. 70 years, it's of no consequence to infinity. So if a person looks like he's enjoying this world for 70, 80 years, in reality, first of all, you should know, I know a lot of these people, none of them enjoy anything. A lot of these rich and successful people, most miserable people I've ever met in my life. But let's say they are enjoying themselves. Let's pretend. They enjoyed every single moment for 80 years. That 80 years is worth what? 0. In comparison to infinity, when infinity now turns into the worst place you can possibly imagine times infinity. So now, here we see that Hashem gave us a Torah that's great, that's going to help us if we practice it, if we do it, if we take it seriously, both in this world and the next. And Shlomo Melech gives us several different verses from his book of Proverbs, from Mishnah, as proofs. Everything in the Torah must have some level of proof. And the first one he says, Ki chaim em lemotzeem ulechol besaro marpeh. For they are, meaning the Torah teachings, they are a life to those who find them, and a healing to his entire flesh. We went over this last week, and we saw that the Malbim says that a person that acquires real Torah knowledge is going to have a benefit both physically and spiritually. Because even though in the physical world some things have a specific physical cure. For example, you have a headache, you need to take some type of acetaminophen, some type of aspirin, a Tylenol, a Advil, something. You have a headache. That's usually what works. If you have some other form of pain, or you have some other form of ailment, you take a different medicine. The Malbim says that's the difference with the Torah. Torah cures everything. Some of the Chachamim, when they would get a headache, they would learn more Torah. That's what the medicine. I believe it was the Rambam that said it, because my rabbi always repeats it to me every time I ask him, are you going to go to the doctor? And this is what he says to me. He says, the Rambam says, doctors are for people that have no Yirat Shamayim. He was a doctor, though. The Rambam was a doctor. But he says, doctors are for people who don't have Yirat Shamayim. Obviously, this does not apply to your average secular half Baal Tshuva or even half religious person today, because most of us don't even know what Yirat Shamayim is. But in essence, what the Rambam is trying to tell us is that Yirat Shamayim comes with emunah. You have to have emunah that Hashem is the cure for all ailments and His Torah is the cure for all ailments. If you don't know this, then obviously you're not going to believe Him enough to know that you can avoid going to the doctor and simply just trust in Hashem. And that means that you have a lack of belief in Hashem, which means you have a lack of Yirat Shamayim. That's the limud, really. But anyway, Shlomo HaMelech tells us a few interesting things. Rashi says that when a man's body is flesh and blood, the Torah is actually the what is life. How do we know the Torah is what's providing life to his soul? How do we know that there's a soul, b'chlal? There's a couple of simple ways you can prove that a person has a soul. First off, person dreams. When a person dreams, he's still active. He's still doing stuff. His body doesn't move, though, most of the time. But he still is active, and if he remembers his dreams, he thinks he's flying, he thinks he's eating, he thinks he's arguing, he thinks he's fighting. Even though his body is pretty much idle, it's turned off, his soul continues to operate even on a higher level. Showing that he doesn't actually need his body in order for his soul to work. There are actually two different entities. The soul is to the body like for example, a foot is to a shoe. Second way, you can prove that a person is actually the soul and not the body. Obviously, you can say death. But most people are going to say, wait, but did you ever see the dead person come back? Yes, actually, there's about 30 million stories like that. But aside from that, it's called near-death experience. But aside from that, you can prove it in other ways. That's very logical and rational. People that are paralyzed. People that are completely paralyzed still function, in many cases, high functioning. Like this Rasha Hawkins was fully paralyzed, but yet in his paralysis, he caused more damage than almost anybody else in the generation. During his paralysis, where he wasn't able to move even anything, not even his face, nothing. Nothing, he wasn't able to move anything. Not a finger, not a nothing. He caused more damage to neshamot in this world than almost anybody else in the generation. His whole life, he went back and forth about believing in God, not believing in God, believing in God, not believing in God, all the way until Hashem says, okay, you know what? Let me show you. You don't want to believe? Let me show you if I'm real. Nice to meet you. This is chamber number 1, this is chamber number 2, this is for that lecture, this is for that lecture. You don't want to believe in him, he shows you, he introduces himself to you. So, we see that people that are paralyzed still function, there's actually one guy from India that I believe he has such a disease of paralysis that the only thing he can move in his body is his eyes and his finger. His eyes and his finger, the only things that can actually move. He wrote 3 books, 3 or 4 books. Genius. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's extremely impressive. A person that has all the reasons in the world to want to commit suicide every 2 seconds is as happy as can be, high functioning without a body. All he has is a little finger that he types with the little finger and his eyes. That's it. And he wrote 3 or 4 books. There are certain people that don't have a body that's functioning, but yet they're very high functioning. Here we see that the body is nothing but flesh. What's powering that soul beyond this life is going to be a Torah that the person learns in his life. If he doesn't learn Torah, then that soul is going to be starving a whole entire lifetime, arriving very poor, in a very poor state to Olam Haba, which has to be corrected. So here in the beginning we see that a person that's learning this Torah will find a cure both for his physical and spiritual self. The next verse that Shlomo HaMelech says to us is Ref'ut te'i lesharecha v'shikui le'atzmotecha. It says, it shall be a healing to your flesh and a marrow to your bones. Few things that the Gemara teaches us first and foremost is that a person that's a rasha, a person that's wicked, doesn't follow Torah and Mitzvot, their entire self gets eaten up by worms and maggots after they're gone. But if they're a tzaddik, then parts of them do not. Depends on how much of a high level of a tzaddik the person is. It could literally be, like I told you guys last week, it could literally be a person leaves his neshama, leaves this world, but his body is so holy, it stays exactly the same. For years. In some cases, centuries. They wanted to move the grave of the Gaon Mivilna because they wanted to build something there. They came to the Jews, told them, listen, move your body. He says, no, we're not allowed. We're not allowed to take a body out of the grave, take it somewhere else. It's already been here for years. He says, listen, we're going to build something here with or without. So either move it, or we'll move it. The Jews couldn't break halakha. What are they going to do, poor guys? They didn't touch the grave, but whoever did touch it died. After the 3rd or 4th person died, they decided to build somewhere else. They decided to build somewhere else. Why? It's not worth it to keep dying. First person, coincidence. Second person, deja vu. But the 3rd and 4th, okay, there's something wrong here. There's like a plague here. There's something wrong. Oh, you remember that Jewish guy with the kippah, the little hat thingy that he has on his head? Yeah, he says that this is some holy person called Vilna. Something Vilna. Gaon mi Vilna or something. It's called a warning sign. Do not enter. Do not touch. Do not look. Do not nothing. Why? Because he sanctified his body, not just his neshama. He sanctified his body that even generations after he died, there's still protection in heaven over his body. But a person that protects his neshama will benefit in such a way that even if they have some type of ailment, as we laughed a little bit about last week, that too can be cured. Many times you see people take on tshuva and see miracles in their life. I've seen it countless times, and you see, mamash, people literally have their lives changed by simply taking on Torah. And sometimes it's medical miracles. There was 2 young guys that came on a lecture about 20 years ago or so. One of them actually came on and said that him and his brother were accidentally, as part of a study, they were accidentally given the disease instead of the cure. They were both given AIDS. He decided to do serious tshuva. His brother decided to live his last few months with as much fun as possible. His brother died. He was still alive. But he said, okay, he's alive, but he's probably going to die soon, no? He says that after he started doing Teshuva, he enjoyed it so much, he took it really seriously, and by the time he arrived at that lecture, about maybe 20 years ago or so, he says they checked him, like mamash, like a month or two before that lecture, says somehow the AIDS is gone. An incurable disease was cured without medicine. Asking how is a silly question. It's like asking how much is one part of infinity. It's a silly question. There's no how. It's simply Hashem. Now the next thing that we got to is ואומר עץ חיים הנה מחזיקים בה ותומכיה מאושר. And it says, it's a tree of life to those who grasp it, and its supporters are praiseworthy. Meaning that the Torah, in Proverbs chapter 3, verse 18, says that the Torah is like a tree of life to those who grasp it, and its supporters are praiseworthy. So this we went over last week of how the Ruach Chaim said that how do you know how valuable Torah is to a person? Based on how hard they work for it, how hard they chase it. How do you know if you're really serious about learning? How much do you fight for learning? Meaning, everybody's busy. But do you still get an hour in? Do you still get 2 hours in? Do you still get 5 hours in? Yeah, but I'm tired. Okay, so you're tired. So you're tired. So that means it's not everything for you. If it's everything for you, you'd find a way not to be tired. You'd find a way to do it despite being tired. You'd find a way to do it despite being busy like everybody else. Everybody's busy. There's no such thing as not busy. If you're alive, you're busy. If you're alive, you're tired. Everybody's tired. Everybody's busy. Everybody's got stuff to do. But if the Torah is a priority in your life, you'll find a way to get it. You'll find a way to grab onto it. But then the interesting thing is that it says, "V'tomchea meushar," that the Etz Chaim, the tree of life, is gifted to those who grab it. Meaning, those who are serious about Torah get the tree of life. They get eternity. What Adam HaRishon was trying to get. What was he trying to get? Why did he eat from the tree of knowledge? To find out where the tree of life was. How do we know? Because it says that the tree of life was in the middle of the Gan Eden. Where's the middle? If we don't know where it started and we don't know where it ended, where's the middle? That's exactly the point. He doesn't know where it is. So I'm going to find out where it is. I'll eat from the tree of knowledge. Eat from the tree of knowledge. How do we know that he knew where the tree of knowledge was? Because it doesn't say in the Torah where it was. It was north, it was south, it was west, it was east. It doesn't say that. How do we know he knew where the tree of knowledge was? Who wants to answer? Exactly. She's paying attention. The rest of you are sleeping. She ate from it, so that's how we know. Now, he wanted to eat from the tree of knowledge because he wanted to find out where the tree of life is. You can get the tree of life. How? Learning Torah. But then it says something interesting in this proverb. It says, you're going to get the tree of life by holding onto the Torah. But the real beneficiary is someone that invests in it. Wait, isn't learning it enough? It says no. Someone that invests in it is even more. What is somebody that invests in it? Everybody works. Or at least they should. Because money is a tool that you have in the world that allows you to do something with. Buy food, pay rent, pay mortgage, lease a car, buy a car, shoes, clothing, and so on and so forth. If you don't work, then you have to find a different way to make money. If you're not going to find a way to make different money, then Hashem is going to force you to find a way by making you homeless. And then you'll be forced to find a way to get money by holding a cup all day. Why? Because you need money in order to live. You can get away with it by not doing it for a little while, by finding a few fools to feed you for nothing. Like I had a few of them living in my life. throughout the years. I had plenty of money, and anybody that needed, I gave it to them. So people that are leeches, they know exactly who the fish is. I was one of those fish. I was a fantastic fish. I never complained. They asked questions. They had requests. I would just write where's check, where's paper, where's this, where's that. I was a perfect banker. Just sending money all day, never receiving. But eventually you get sick of it. I've been financing you for 2 years already. Get a job. I've been financing you for 5 years already. Go get a job. Do something with your life. No, I get fired. No, I get hired. No, everybody's this. No, everybody's that. They always have all the excuses in the world. And usually these people are very smart. They're smart enough to fool everyone to believe their story, including themselves. They're so smart, they fool themselves to believe their own nonsense, that they can't get ahead, that everybody else is a criminal and they're the victim. Everybody else is this and they're Moshe Rabbeinu. They deserve more, but everybody's mistreating them. It's just a coincidence that everybody fired them. Just a coincidence that they can't hold a job for more than 2 weeks. It's just a coincidence that there's no profession that's good enough for them. They don't want to start in the low. They are a high level. They're high maintenance. They don't want to start with low-level jobs. They want to start at CEO minimum. Minimum CEO. And if it's not CEO, I'm not starting. No, I'm not working at cleaning any bathrooms. No, you work cleaning bathrooms. All right, so what will you do? What skill level do you have? Now I know a lot of stuff. What do you know? Well, I know that kangaroos and koalas both don't actually give birth in a natural way, because the little thing goes in their little thing, and he starts explaining to you what he saw on the Discovery Channel. And he thinks this is knowledge. He thinks this is what makes him smart. He starts telling you about how the kangaroo and the koala and this and then all this nonsense that he sees on TV and the internet. He thinks this is skills. And that's why he's supposed to be a CEO. In reality, he's not even qualified to clean a bathroom. You know how many of these people there is? Countless. Countless of these leeches that always find some sucker to finance their way. For years. Years and years at a time. I know one guy that did it for 50 years. 46 years. He never got a single job. But he lived in a house. He had a car. Never worked a day in his life. Any job that he had, he survived for like a few hours. Not even a day. One time my dad told him, listen, you're not going to work. You're not going to get a job. Let's stop kidding ourselves. I already know you for 50 years. So it's a family person. We know. He's like, you're not going to work. Let's stop kidding ourselves. You know, why don't you do this? My father told him, I'll pay you $200 a day. Go learn Torah. $200 a day. It's a lot of money. Guy says, $200 a day just to go read a book? No problem. Fine. I don't have to work. I don't have to carry anything. I don't have to this. Great. Good money. He goes into the Beit Knesset. Goes, okay, I'll see you at the end of the day. 35 minutes later. 35 minutes later, he quits. No, this is not for me. I never this. I never that. Ooh, what? All the excuses in the world. Why? He's too used to leeching. And there are many people like this. Many, many people. It's not just this generation. It's not just it's just there's many people. And the reason why is because at some point or another over the last 100 years, 150 years, we changed our mentality about work. We changed our mentality about work to an extent that we view work as a bad thing. We view work as a negative thing. Like we are supposed to do things that are easy. We're supposed to do things that are profitable without much work. Like the quickest profit. Overnight profit. Easiest thing. So I could live life. And so on and so forth. So when our children are growing up, most parents don't even like giving them errands to do. Don't even like to give them errands. Like, what? I mean, tell your kid to sweep. Look how much a mess. What, he's a cleaning lady? No, he's not a cleaning lady. He's your kid. It's not about being a cleaning lady. He's your kid. He needs to learn work. He needs to learn responsibility. He needs to learn to contribute to society. No, I feel bad. I have to tell him what he's going to clean. Look how much. I'll just clean. That's not being a mom. That's ruining him. Telling that you're going to clean for him every single time, or her every single time, that's not being a parent. That's ruining them. That's giving them the perception that work is a bad thing. Work is not for them, it's for everybody else. And this type of mentality has ruined us to such an extent that you have many people growing up throughout their years, throughout their teenage life, 16, 17, 18 years old. They go to school for a few hours, but then they have 7, 8 hours of completely free time, and they get bored to death. So what do you do when you're bored to death? You cause trouble. So instead of telling the kid, why don't you get an after-school job? Why don't you go learn? Why don't you, contribute to society in some way? What does he do? He plays video games like a retard. Oh, I killed him. That's what he learns all day. I killed him. I killed him. Yeah. What? Who'd you kill, honey? Cops are coming. No. How many? It's the video game that you paid for with your hard-earned money that you worked hard for. Because you're the sucker that I'm living off of. And guess what? He grows up. He's 18. He's 19. He's 20. Eventually, yalla, halas, get out of here already. Move out. What move out? What am I going to do? Who's going to clean? Who's going to do my laundry? Who's going to cook for me? Who's going to clean for me? So what happens? The foolish mom, if she's at a high level, level A of foolishness, what does she do? She goes to his house and cleans his house and cooks for him and cleans for him, and she never lets him grow up. And then what happens? His life is ruined completely at this point. Why? Because he now views work as simply not for him. So even the jobs that he's going to get, what is he going to get? He can't get a regular job. Why? Because they have to give him special, pretty boy conditions. Why? You can't give him a job that's going to ruin his hair because, he worked on it for a half hour in the morning. You can't get him a job that's going to stain his sneakers because then he's going to use the toothbrush to clean it for a half hour. You can't give him a job that's going to, ruin a fingernail because he's paid $25 to get a manicure and a pedicure. And you can't get dirt, and you can't get this, and you have to give him vacation before he even starts working. So this guy is the worst employee in the world. He can pass a test in school because he's smart, but he's lazy as it gets. And then guess what? Some foolish woman falls for him because he's pretty. He's pretty. He's like he's like a mannequin. So she thinks he's cute, and no, he's going to grow up. She marries him. And guess what? She's not his mother. So when he says, no, so how come you're not cleaning? His mom stops cleaning. She stops cooking. She says he's married now. Guess what? He's not married to his mother. He's married to some other girl. She also grew up this way. So she doesn't clean. He doesn't clean. She doesn't cook. He doesn't cook. Neither one cooks. Everybody, they both, Hashem, what happens? They both have to move back home. Why? Because they don't know how to live. They don't know how to live. Nobody knows how to eat. Nobody knows. Ima, I just finished the bathroom, number 2. She has to come for him to help him out. He doesn't know anything, the poor guy. This is this generation. This is many people in this generation. Why? Because of their parents. Their parents wanted to protect them from work. So they destroyed them. By protecting the kids from work, you're destroying them. I know a guy, I knew him for years. He was one of the leeches. And he grew up, how they say, he grew up with a silver spoon? No, he grew up with a gold spoon. When he was a teenager, his family was so rich, he was crashing sports cars for fun. Like Ferraris and Porsches and all types of, $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 cars for fun. You would just crash them. But when life is a circle, eventually the money was gone, divorce eventually happened, and so on and so forth, and eventually there was no more money. And he was used to this, and at this point already he's used to the party life with drugs and all types of things that come with drugs. And he couldn't get himself together. Extremely smart. IQ off the roof. But to keep a normal job, to function as a normal human being, he simply could not. Every other day would be some type of trouble. Every other day. Some type of overdose, or a rehab, or jail, or something. Something. Why? His parents ruined him. His parents ruined him by making him think that hard work is for other people. The thing that made him and I friends is that he was amazed by me. Why? I wasn't really very much to speak of. I was still a young kid. I was in my 20s. He was older than I am, maybe by 10 years or so, 8, 9, 10 years. What's there to be amazed about? He says, he couldn't understand how I could work for so many hours. We both worked in the same office. He was just making his chair warm. And I was actually working for 12, 15, 16 hours sometimes. He couldn't understand. He goes, how do you make so many calls? How do you sit here for so long? Don't you need to go to lunch? Don't you need to go party? Don't you need to do this? No, I need to work. I need to make money. I'm here to make money. I'm not here to socialize. But this was beyond him. With all of his intellect, complete waste. And people like this look for easy way out. They look for easy jobs, which unfortunately today there are many of them. Many, many easy jobs that they could just get by, or many fools that will give them an ability to get by, and they get other people to buy into their fantasy dreams, and unfortunately, this leads into a lot of disasters. So, when a person works, already he's training himself to accept the fact that work is necessary. If you're going to work and understand that work is the only way to earn something in life, then that you're also going to treat your learning that way. If your learning is going to be only if it's easy for me am I going to learn it, guess what? You're never going to reach anything significant. Some people only want to read books if it's easy to understand it. Like, 6th grade level. They're already 35 years old, but they're still still reading the 6th grade book with the drawings. If it doesn't have drawings, we don't read it. Doesn't have drawings, no reading it. Why? I need the drawings. I need the drawings. I need the comic books. You don't grow that way. You need to overcome obstacles. This is why I recommend all of my students, as soon as they start doing Teshuva, as soon as they start keeping some serious mitzvot, as soon as they've taken on learning for a decent amount of time already, they learn MUSSAR, they learn Parashat Shavua, they learn that they're actually real serious about Teshuva, they have to learn Gemara. But then immediately they start learning Gemara and they tell me, listen, I learned Gemara for the last 3.5 weeks. Fantastic. I said, whoa, you understand it? He goes, no, fantastic how I don't understand a single word. You could read for 3.5 weeks and not understand anything. I said, perfect. That means you're studying. If you told me you understand everything 3.5 weeks, I think you're lying. How you came from Amazon in Africa and now you understand Gemara? How? How did you understand all of a sudden? 3.5 weeks you don't understand? Perfect, that means you're studying. But keep going. Why? Because eventually you're going to understand it. Eventually you're going to understand it. Why? Because you're rewiring your brain. And trust me when I tell you, if it wasn't for my rabbi, I would have quit studying Gemara at least 1,000 times. It's hard. It's hard. It doesn't get easy ever if you're studying right. If you're studying wrong, it gets easy eventually. Eventually it gets easy. Why? Because you're just doing the same thing you already did last time. So if you want to grow in life, you have to know that working hard is a prerequisite. It's necessary to work hard in life, in anything. You want your marriage to work, you have to work hard on it. It's not supposed to fit. People think that you're supposed to get married and it's just supposed to work. No, nothing works that way. If you want your marriage to work, it's hard work to make marriage work. Not because there's constantly fighting, chas v'shalom, but because you have to constantly work on yourself in order to see things the certain way that they're supposed to be seen. You have to constantly accept the other person the way they are in certain conditions and tell them there's certain things that are not acceptable. You have to constantly review the line, the red line. Are you crossing it? Are they crossing it? It's constant work. It's constant growth. You have to constantly find a way to bring the other person higher, even though you want to kick them lower sometimes. Reality is that marriage is hard work. If it works. If it doesn't work, that means you didn't work on it. Everything in life is hard work. But there's a reward. There's a reward for that hard work. There's a huge reward for that hard work, and it's called success. Now here, in this pasuk, it says, Etz chaim ili machazikim ba v'tomchei ha'meushar. it takes this to a different level. It says that the tree of life is given to those who grasp it, meaning grasp the Torah. But the real reward, the ultimate success, is given to those that invest in it. Why those that invest in it? Why not those that just learn it? Because those that invest in it, those that take their hard-earned money, not the handouts that people gave them and they stole, their hard-earned money, and they choose to take that hard-earned money and give it for Kiruv, give it for Talmid Chacham, give it for the sake of Torah, that means a million things. A million things. Why they're so praiseworthy. Number one, it means they understand the value of Torah. They understand the value of Torah even though they're in the business world. They understand the value of Torah to invest in it. Now, it's investing in it is not so easy. Why? Because you worked hard for the money. Meaning that you're working hard for the money. Why? So you can finally get the money. You finally get the prize. If you took all this hard work and you took that prize and you gave it to the Torah, that means you're telling Hashem, Hashem, your Torah is more valuable than my highest pleasure, my highest pleasure, my highest prize. You're putting the Torah exactly where it belongs. And for that, the reward is endless. For that, the reward is endless. Because you are putting the Torah exactly where it's supposed to be. You're looking at it the right way. Unfortunately, today, people don't see it that way. They think that Torah is just something to do when you have nothing to do. So sometimes they have a little bit of extra money and they want to make pretend like they care about Torah, so they do invest in Torah. They'll donate $100, they'll donate $500, they'll donate $1,000, they'll donate a certain amount of money. It doesn't really move them much. It's like just enough money where it doesn't really matter to them. Well, sometimes you're in such a tight budget that $100 makes all the difference in the world. $100 is the difference of whether you're going to have Shabbat, you're going to have meat or not. But sometimes you're like, something is going good. Sometimes $100 is like nothing. You spend $300, $400 every time you go to the store just to get groceries, even though it's the third time you went this week. Everything is good. Even it's good, everything good, but you just buy whatever you want. You don't look at prices. Things go bad, things go good. So $100 is nothing. So you give the guy $100 for Torah. Yeah, Kiruv, here, $100. Go. Rabbi comes, you give him $100. But it doesn't really move you. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. So it's not really, you didn't give him the prize. You gave him something, but it's not like something that was something really valuable. So that guy that has a lot, he gives 100. And the other guy that doesn't have a lot, he gives 100. Of course, every normal person knows the value of this 100 and that 100 are two different values, even though it's 100 and 100. In heaven, they don't calculate the number. They calculate the effort. Sometimes a person will invest in Torah, but he'll misinvest. He'll misinvest because sometimes he's misinformed. One of the common things that is happening today is the misinformation about Issachar and Zebulun. This is not relevant to most people unless they're successful, because Issachar and Zebulun is either for the Avrech to know or for the person that has a decent income to know. What does it mean? Issachar and Zebulun is when a person wants to buy Torah, learning that somebody else is doing. Like the tribe of Issachar and the tribe of Zebulun had Issachar and Zebulun. Issachar and Zebulun were two original of the tribes, sons of Yaakov. And the deal was that Issachar would learn and Zebulun would work and learn. He would learn for himself a little bit, but the main thing that he did is that he would work in order to pay the bills for both families. So the way that it's known in the Jewish world today is that if you work, but you don't have enough time to study as much as you should, so you figure that you're going to invest in Torah by giving money to a Talmid Chacham that he's studying, and in essence, you guys are going to share. He's going to take part of your income, and you're going to get the mitzvot. Because a mitzvah is like fire. So no matter how many candles you, let's say for example, you have a lit candle, and you want to light other candles. No matter how many candles you light, it's never going to change the original fire. It stays the same. Even if you light 1,000 candles, the original fire doesn't go up or down. That's a mitzvah. So you could share a mitzvah with as many people as you want. But with this specific deal, there's a big confusion, where sometimes people think that for $500 or for $1,000, they can buy somebody's entire mitzvot for the month. So for example, because sometimes people say, listen, if you give this certain program that started recently, said if you give $1 a day, and you're going to help finance one of these avrichim. For what? For lunch? What exactly are you doing for him? Maybe you'll get him lunch, maybe, dinner. What's $30 a month going to do for the guy, poor guy? What do you think these people live off of? Man? Or sometimes they say, no, I send $500 or $600 a month to some avrich that learns Torah all day, and we share. So this is a mistake. Why is this a mistake? Because the halacha is not as such. The halacha is not that. What's the halacha? Rav Moshe Feinstein, alav hashalom, wrote about it extensively, and he explained to us something that, unfortunately today, most people simply do not know. Now, the way Issachar and Zebulun is supposed to work is as follows. The original Issachar and Zebulun, Rav Moshe Feinstein says, was actually that Issachar would study and Zebulun would work. But the partnership was that half of the mitzvot from the learning of Torah will go to each one, but also half the money. Not a certain amount of money, half the money. So if Zvulun's makes $10,000 a month, $5,000 to Issachar, $5,000 to Zvulun. If he makes $10 million, $5 million to Issachar, $5 million to Zvulun. That's the pshat. But most people don't do it that way. They think, no, I'm just going to send him $500. Send him $1,000. So some were more lenient. Where did they get this mistake from? Because some were more lenient and said, no, it doesn't have to be 50-50 of the actual business, of the actual income. It's him giving him all he needs. Meaning, let's say the learner, he only needs $5,000 a month. He needs $5,000. He doesn't need $10,000, $20,000. He needs $5,000 a month to live his normal life. But the guy that's financing the $5,000, he makes $100,000 a month. So original halacha says $50,000. But there was some that were lenient and said, no, give him everything he needs. He needs $5,000, you give him $5,000, you get to keep $95,000, but you're still sharing, because you're giving him everything he needs. He's not, if his needs increase, your obligation increases. But as long as you give him whatever he needs. And if he's a real avrech that you want to invest in, then he's not going to continue increasing. He's going to be normal. If it continues to increase permanently for no reason, then obviously he's not an avrech you want to invest in the first place. But the point is that these two versions, whether it's the pshat version, simple version, or even the somewhat more lenient version, are drastic different from today. Today, people literally think that they're financing an avrech, and they have a Issachar and Zebulun deal with an avrech for an entire month for $500, for $300, for $700. Unless your avrech is a mouse, it's not Issachar and Zebulun. Why? Because no one in the world can live for $700 a month. Not here, not in Eretz Yisrael. Yes, the avrechim make $500 a month from the kollel, but they don't live off of $500. They need to get money somewhere else, some other way. Some family member, some donation, some miracle. Something happens every year, every month. Money appears some other way. They don't live off of the $500. They live off it, but it's not enough. They have 6 kids, 7 kids, Baruch Hashem. 10 kids, they can't. Just to feed the family, costs you $200-300 a week if you have such a big family. Even if you don't eat meat, $100 a week. So what? Just you're a vegetarian. You only eat oranges all week. Okay, you still need $100 a week. That's the kollel money. That's it, finished. What about the rent, or mortgage, or school, or shoes for the kids? Oh no, they're all going to walk around naked. What? You need money. So anyone that thinks that they're getting Issachar and Zebulun for $500 a month or $1,000 a month is simply lying to themselves and someone is lying to them. We have an Issachar and Zebulun on our website. That's $650 a week. This is the minimum requirement for a very young family. Very young family, meaning only a couple of kids in Israel and Yerushalayim, or, that's very young. They don't have extremely high expenses, but also they need a decent living to survive. This is what it turns out to be about. We averaged it to about $2,600. In reality, some of the other families we send money to, they need $4,000 a month, not $2,600. Why? You have 6 kids, 7 kids. Guess what? Those kids eat. You can't just tell them, listen, honey, this week only 3 of you are going to eat. Next week, the other 3 are going to eat. This week, Abba and Ima are going to fast for the whole week. Can't. Everybody has to eat. Everybody has to give, rents go higher. People need to live. The point is that if you're going to go into an Issachar and Zebulun deal, you need to know the halakha. You need to know the halakha. What are you actually investing in? What are you not investing in? Why? Because a lot comes with it. If it's the right Issachar and Zebulun, then this Mishnah is for you. This proverb is for you. Why? It says, Etz chaim ine machazikim ba, v'tomchea meushar. The Etz chaim, the tree of life, goes to the person that studies it, but the real praiseworthy, the real beneficiary, the real biggest winner is the one that invests money in it. Why? Because you're enabling him to learn. You're enabling him to do Kiruv. You're enabling people to do Teshuva. And that makes you even bigger according to halacha. Why? Because the one that enables another to do mitzvah is considered even bigger than the one that did the mitzvah itself. Why? Because as we said before, to get the money to invest, you have to work hard. You're only going to work hard because you want the prize, not because you like your job, like some people think. Trust me, if they didn't pay you, you'd stop liking it. You're only working hard because you want the prize, you want the money. To take that prize after all that hard work and invest it in Torah shows that you value Torah even more than the biggest prize you have in your life. That's what makes you something special. That's what makes you deserving of getting even a bigger reward than the one that's learning. Because the one that's learning, he's doing the first level like you did. He's working hard. First Torah. You're working double. You're working double. You're working to make money, and you're taking that money and investing it in Torah.
He also gives this shiur away, the one that learns.
No. Shared. 50-50.
Yeah, but he could get all of it.
No. It's 50-50, meaning they both get the same amount.
Also, he doesn't say, oh...
Fire and fire.
He doesn't say, give me only 10% of what you make, I'm going to give you only 10% of what I learned. He gives them also 50%, right?
No, it's a percentage.
The one that learns, Amen. You said that the one that makes 100K a month, you can say, you know what, this is right, he's only 5K, so I'll give him 5K and take the 95K. But the one that learns, he doesn't say, I learned 100 Mishnayot a month, I'm going to give you just 10 Mishnayot Zchuyot.
No, that's the deal you have to have. You have to have the deal. Listen, you're going to finance all of what I need. I'm going to give you all of same thing, same mitzvah that I'm getting. Every mitzvah that I get, you get a mitzvah.
No, those people need to know. If they give only 10% of what they make, they should only get 10% of what you learn.
Of course. Yeah, no, that's the point. That's the key, is to know what you're getting into. It's a business deal. No different than any partnership. No one's going to invest into a business without knowing the logistics of the business. You're not going to buy into some laundromat or shipping company or logistic company or car company without knowing if there's inventory, if there's employees, if there's debt, if there's revenue, if there's even a business, if there's a logo, if there's anything. Is it just a shell? What is it? You're not going to put money into it until you investigate. Same thing here. You need to know what you're investing in. You need to know what you're investing in. What's the deal? Am I getting all of it? Am I getting some of it? Am I getting this? Am I getting that? And unfortunately today, because we're so desperate sometimes in the Torah world to finance Torah, and people simply don't get it, it like leads decent people to not say the whole story. It's like, yeah, you're getting whatever, just give the $500 for heaven's sake. Yeah, you're getting whatever you want, just give the $500. Because they know if they tell the guy $2,000, he's not going to buy anything. And if they tell the guy you're only going to get 25% for $500, he's also not going to buy anything. So just give the $500. Just be quiet. Just give something. It's good for you anyway. Problem is that this has led many people to not know what the actual halacha is. Halacha is you have to know what the deal is before you get into it. You have to know that it has to be a certain percentage for a certain percentage, and so on and so forth. So now, this Mishnah tells us that we could be winners by investing in Torah, by investing into Kiruv, by investing in people doing Teshuva in an extraordinary way. But investing doesn't always have to do with money, because sometimes you want to invest, but you don't have any money. You want to invest, you like Torah, you like Kiruv, you like people doing Teshuva, but you don't have any money. Hashem didn't bless you with money. What do? You have something else that's worth money. You have time. Time's worth a lot of money. If you ask Steve Jobs right before he died, he had $10 billion. How much of that $10 billion would you be willing to spend to get another year? Guess what the answer would be? 100% of the money, and I'll go into debt like he said. Why? A year of my life is worth more than $10 billion. So guess what? A year of your life is also worth more than that. If an atheist's life is worth $10 billion or more, needless to say, a person that follows Hashem's ways, his life is priceless. So that time is worth something. What can you do with that time that's worth something? Hashem gave you a certain skill, a certain idea, certain something. Can you do something with it? That's the thing. Everybody can do something with it. Some people can give out CDs. They take an hour a day, they take an hour a week, they take an hour a month, they take an hour at some point, and they go and give CDs. They go and give posters. They go and arrange a shiur. They call all their friends. Instead of doing nothing with their life, they go call their friends. Listen, Tzvi, Shmuli, David, Yaakov, all their friends they know, come to my house. Why? Just come. I have a surprise for you. Surprise for you. He brings 25 friends with you, are expecting, some Hashem Yachem kind of party. They get a rabbi instead. But they're already here. They're not going to leave. You got 25 of your friends to come to the house for shiur Torah. And empanadas too, as long as it comes with shiur Torah and it's kosher. The point is, Rabotai, is that you have shiur Torah. Why? You spend your time wisely. You spend your time wisely. You give CDs. You arrange shiur Torah. Or if you're already on the internet. I don't suggest anybody go on the internet ever. But the reality is you have to. You have to go on the internet because it's like a phone. It's like electricity. It's like air in our generation. But you need to know where to go and what to do when you're there. If you're already on the internet and you happen to be in one of these websites called Facebook, and you're watching me right now, do me a favor. You see that button on the right side? It says share. Press it. It's free. It's free. It doesn't cost any money. Press it. Every time you see a lecture of mine on the internet, press the share button. It's free, I promise. No one's going to charge you anything. Not even more electricity. Not even more electricity. No Facebook bill is going to come. No YouTube now. We have on YouTube Live also. You press share. There's no more bills from YouTube. They're not going to charge you. WhatsApp's not going to charge you. That advertising they have starting tomorrow. People send you this mail. It says starting tomorrow, WhatsApp is going to start charging you for every word or some crazy thing like that. It's fake. I promise you, if you press share, nothing's going to happen. Except you're going to get mitzvot. You're going to get mitzvot. You saw shiur Torah, you're going to press share. You have 300, 400, 4,000 friends. Somebody's going to watch it. Maybe they're going to do tshuva. Guess what? They do tshuva from the video you just press share. That didn't cost you any money other than the half a second that it cost you. They do tshuva. Every single mitzvah they ever do for the rest of eternity also goes to your account. It's like, to not do Kiruv, you have to be insane. This is the reason why we were charged with such a punishment in this Parashat Kitisa. Why do we have to kill our brothers and sisters when they violated? When they worshiped the golden calf? Why? He says, because you could have done Kiruv. You could have pressed share and rebuked them. Don't rebuke him yourself. Have Yaron Reuven rebuke him. Everybody hates him anyway. Let him rebuke them and they'll do tshuva though. They'll hate him, but they'll do tshuva. They'll hate him, but they'll change their whole life because of what he says. Why? Because it's too scary not to listen. Yeah, I don't like you, but keep Shabbat though. Shtabach Shimolad, hate me as much as you want, just keep Shabbat. But guess what? And eventually they don't hate me that much. Why? Because they start seeing that the medicine is good and it's tasty. And it's not as poisonous and bitter as they thought. It just looked bitter because they didn't want to listen in the beginning. you press share. Moving forward, ואומר כי לוויית חן הם לראשך וענקים לגרגרותיך. It says they are a tiara of grace for your head and necklace for your neck. Shlomo HaMelech says that the intellectual content of a person's Torah study is symbolized here by his head, but his ability to verbalize his thoughts is symbolized by his neck. It says the tiara of grace on your head and necklace on your neck. Meaning that when a person learns Torah, they not only are fixing their thoughts, they're putting like adornment and all types of sparkles and beauty around their thoughts, like the Malbim says. It's like you put decorations around your thoughts. You've purified your thoughts. But better yet, you also are now able to communicate them. This is one of the greatest promises the Torah has made that I know of. Many people have good thoughts in business, in theory, in philosophy. Everybody has ideas. Very few know how to communicate them. When I was in the business world, one of my lines as a salesman is that there are many people that are smart, but very few can communicate it. Now, communicating it doesn't mean you know how to speak. Communicating means that you know how to break down a complex idea, a difficult idea, into a simple formula that the average 5-year-old can understand you. That's a good communicator. If you're just saying mumbo jumbo, and you start telling people E equals MC squared, and then the algorithm of this, and the tangent line is this, and I start telling you all types of calculus, and this, and that, and programs, and C++, and A++, and all types of programs here and there, and that, what happens at the end? Nothing. All of you say, this guy, something's wrong with him. He doesn't speak a language. What, he's Chinese? You don't look Chinese. You don't look Chinese. Well, you don't know what you're talking about. But guess what? Most conferences, most business meetings, most speakers, that's how they talk. I used to have people come sell me all types of stuff. They want to sell me all their product, their company, their this, their that. You have money, people want to sell you stuff. The worst thing in the world, people that never got my business are people that speak in algorithms or in acronyms, where they assume that you know their industry's acronym. And they start telling you, the ABC and the BCC and all that. What are you talking about? What is ABC? What are you? Oh, you don't know ABC, always be closing, you don't know. What? No, I know always be I know what you said. I don't know the acronym for it. Why would I know? I'm not in your business. People assume that you know what's in their head. That makes them a terrible communicator. A good speaker, a good communicator is someone that assumes you know nothing, but at the same time gives you the respect as if you do know something. If you're going to talk to somebody like they're retarded, and you're going to talk to them like people used to speak to me when I first moved to this country, I didn't speak English. I was in 5th grade. I only knew the first 3 letters of the alphabet because it was on a cereal box. But when you're 10 years old, it's very easy to learn another language, especially English. Why? Because you're 10 and it's pretty much your brain's like a sponge. So within 1 year, English became my first language. But that didn't mean that the schools changed right away. I was in ESL, English as a second language, class in 5th grade. In 6th grade also, but even though I already knew English. And everyone that was in my class knew that I am a, foreign student, even though I'm speaking like them. So when people would talk to me, they would speak to me extra loud. Do you know what I'm saying? And you're right next to them. I'm not retarded or deaf, and I speak the language. And they're like, oh, they're confused. Wow, he speaks the language. It's like you're a fish that start talking. Why? Because people think that just because you don't speak their language, there's something wrong with you mentally. No, you just simply don't speak their language. Doesn't mean that you're deaf. You just don't speak their language. By the way, you go to a different country, you're not going to speak the language either. Doesn't make you retarded. Just makes you not speak their language. But people are retarded. They're also retarded. So this is what happened to me in the beginning. I had to deal with this. Until one day my math teacher asked me, he's like, did you do that bad on your other classes? That you're in this class with all of these kids? I said, no, I'm actually good in all the other classes. He goes, yeah, but you don't belong here. He says, the math I'm teaching you is a waste of time for you. I said, oh yeah, I told him. Okay. I learned what you're teaching 3 years ago in Israel. He goes, so why are you in this class? I said, because English is my second language. He says, it is? This, Rabotai, is the confusion. People think that just because you don't speak the language, you don't know anything. Can you press the battery thing? It's dying. The phone, yeah. I'll connect it to this. So now, in the business world, there are many people that have ideas. In the scholarly world, many people that have ideas, but they don't know necessarily how to communicate it. So in the business world, when I was on Wall Street, there were two types of people. There's the analyst, and then there's the salesman, broker. Analysts are the ones that are supposed to be really smart, and they're supposed to come up with the idea, why you invest, why you shouldn't invest, why buy, why sell, which company, which industry, where's the economy going, where's the economy not going, and so on and so forth. They're supposed to see what is behind the wall, not necessarily what's in front of the wall, because that's what everybody else sees. That's what the analyst is supposed to do. But he doesn't know how to communicate it really well. He's not a salesman. He's not fiery. He's not energetic. He's not clear. He speaks in acronyms. He's like a nerd. At least that's what it used to be. The salesmen were usually college dropouts, sometimes high school dropouts, but they could sell ice to an Eskimo. Why? Spoke fast. They have an excuse for everything under the sun. Just give them something and they'll give you an excuse. Like Malach HaMavet himself. They have an excuse. Good salesman has an excuse for everything you're saying. If he doesn't have an excuse, he's not a good salesman. A good salesman can sell anything and make you feel like it's the most valuable thing in the world. Especially if you pay a lot of money for it. If he only sells things for a discount, he's not a good salesman. He's a vending machine. He's a shoe. A good salesman sells things for high price, high profit, but makes you feel like you bought it for a discount. That's what a good salesman is. Now, how do you do that? You have to communicate it. You have to communicate this genius's big idea in a simple way so he can understand it, because he's also not an analyst, and make him see what he is saying come to life. In business, they call it a lot of different names. One of the ways they call it is dollarizing it. Dollarizing it means that you're making the investor see the dollars he's going to make from the investment before he makes it. You're going to invest X amount of money. This investment is supposed to generate, let's say, 25% a year or 10% a year for 7 years in a row. What does that mean in actual reality? After 7 years, your 100,000 becomes 200,000. You do the math, 10% a year times 7 years is 100% return. Your 100,000 becomes 200,000. You've just made the guy that has 100,000 in his pocket, is burning a hole in it. See, I want the 200,000. That's it. And the same thing with cars and everything else in the world. The salesman many times didn't know what he was talking about. He just knew how to repeat parts of the story. The analyst knew what he was talking about sometimes, or pretended sometimes, but he didn't know how to communicate it. That's why you need both. My expertise was both. I was able to do both aspects, which made it perfect weapon. So it made me make a lot of sales, a lot of big sales. What people were doing in a year, I was doing in a week. And Baruch Hashem, it worked out really well. I thought I was going to be 93 and still on Wall Street, making my last deal. Little did I know that Hashem was just sending me to a 16-year training camp to teach Torah. But the beauty is that you see it now. I couldn't see it 5 years ago or 10 years ago. But now you see it, is that how valuable that skill is. Because there are many people that teach, but very few people can sit for 3 hours listening to them. 20 minutes, 15 minutes, a half hour, an hour gag. Why? Because, there's always an or something. They could be geniuses. They know 500 million times more Torah than I do. But perhaps they don't communicate the same way, or they don't yell at you as much, or they don't scare you to death as often. Whatever they're doing, something is different. It's Siyata D'Shmaya is slightly different. It's like the knob is turned slightly different. That's it. So you use the same skill. Hashem sends you to a training camp. You use it this way. You explain a very complex idea like Gan Eden, Genom, Olam Haba, Olam Hazeh, depression, whatever, Teshuva, 1.5 million different things that seem easy after you explain it, but in reality they're very complex. Most people that have done Teshuva, or think they've done Teshuva, don't actually know the 4 steps of Teshuva, which means if they don't know it, they haven't done it. So you have to explain it to people in a very simple way, but yet encourage them one way or the other to actually do it. Sometimes the encouragement comes through a joke, sometimes it comes through scaring you. Either way, it has to work. And I assume that I'm never going to see you again. Every time. So whatever I say, I'm assuming it's the last time we're ever going to see each other. So at least you have no excuses. Can't say, oh, no, listen, why you say this first lecture? Maybe you should wait till the 3rd, 4th, 5th lecture, and then tell them that there's Genom, Kafakela, and everything. I say, oh, what guarantee do I have that I'm going to see him again? So I have to give you just enough that you can take, just enough to start Teshuva in every shiur. So this proverb is extraordinary. Why is it extraordinary? Because it's the Torah's promise that Hashem, by you learning Torah seriously, Hashem is giving you a guarantee. What guarantee is He giving you? He's giving you not only the guarantee, the gift of kosherizing your thoughts, putting decorations on your beautiful thoughts, but also will give you the ability to communicate them. Not only through speaking, sometimes through writing, sometimes through just learning one-on-one with somebody, sometimes through just simple conversation. Either way, you'll see every single person that's a serious Talmid Chacham knows how to communicate one way or the other what he's thinking. Sometimes they'll never give a lecture in their life, but they'll write 100 books. They'll write 100 books. Sometimes they'll never write a book, but they'll give 1,000 lectures. The point is, Hashem is giving you a guarantee. You learn my Torah for the sake of Torah. Guarantee is you'll be able to communicate it in the highest level possible. Only a person that knows what it's like not to be able to communicate understands how valuable this is. Because there are a lot of people that don't know how to communicate. They have this thought, but they don't know how to say it. They don't know how to say it. It's a nightmare. You have this thought in the tip of your tongue, you want to say it, but it's not coming out right. Like in your mind, it sounded one way. After it came out, it was like manure. Like, I can't believe that came out. No, I didn't mean to. I meant to compliment. I didn't mean to insult. Like you meant to compliment, and it ended up being an insult, and it's just the worst. It happens. Learning Torah can fix that. ואומר תיתן לראשך לוויית חן עטרת תפארת תמגנך. It says, it will give to your head a tiara of grace, a crown of glory it will deliver to you. Rabbi Yonah says that this is very similar to the previous proverb. It says that the head will be graced with, the thoughts will be adorned, and the communication skills represented by the neck will also be adorned. But he says a slight difference here is that this teaches that the words of a person who studies Torah, it's not only that he'll communicate them, but there's an assurance that they will be heard. Many people talk, but sometimes it goes on deaf ears. Like sometimes anyone that wants to waste about 2.5 seconds of their life, you go watch, they have these videos online all the time, live Israeli Knesset, or congressional hearings. Like, don't ever waste more than 3 seconds, because I'm telling you, I promise you, if you watch 9 seconds or 9 years, nothing changes. Nothing changes. So 3 seconds, you already got the point. You'll see, there's always a guy or a woman talking, and nobody else is listening. Could be the president, the prime minister, the ISIS member. It doesn't make a difference. No one's listening to him. No one's listening to him. Everybody's like playing with their phone. Someone's sleeping. You catch them sleeping on camera. Like, no one's listening to this guy. No one. In Israeli Knesset, once in a while, somebody throws something or yells. But usually nothing happens. Usually it's just like nothing happened. No one's listening. No one cares.
One time somebody said shiur malot there. Everybody listened. Said the whole shiur malot.
There's an exception to every rule. But here you see, Torah gives you a promise. What's the promise? If you really learn Torah, you'll speak and they'll listen. They'll listen. You'll have an audience. You'll have an audience. It's very important to have an audience, because your audience influences what you say. Especially when it comes to Torah, it's siyata d'ishmaya. Many times I prepare for a lecture, I have something that I'm ready to say. Guess what? I come here, nothing that I wanted to say, I say. I speak for 3 hours, then I go over the list in my head, or sometimes I write it down. I used to write it down. I don't write it down anymore, because I realize it's a complete waste of time. I write down 15 points that I want to say. I get home, finally, I go over the 15 points. No, I missed that one. No, I didn't say that one. No, I didn't say the story. No. Once in a while, I say like 2 out of 15. Say, I don't understand. You spoke for 3 hours, for heaven's sake. What did you say if it's not the 15 things? And then you get the phone calls or the text message. Oh, Rabbi, changed my life. I had this question. I had this. And you answered in the lecture. I'm like, like, Hashem gave me something to say just for you in Oklahoma, just for you here in Florida, just for you here in California. Like, people that watch the shiur influence the shiur. It's unbelievable. If I didn't witness it for already 5 years, I wouldn't believe it myself. And you'll see it many times that the speaker starts one way. Again, it depends on the speaker, but starts in one direction, but sometimes goes in a completely different direction. That has to do with the crowd. That has to do with the audience. What does the audience need to hear? But that's assuming the speaker actually wants to help them do tshuva. Sometimes the speakers just want to, impress you.
Sometimes the Gemara goes off topic.
The Gemara is not going off topic. You just think it's going off topic because you're not connecting the lines. There's always a connection. There's always a connection. Always some type of connection.
That's the portion doing?
No, I mean, you'll see that sometimes the connection is unusual, meaning that the connection doesn't make rhyme or reason in our head, but there is a connection. For example, you'll see that in the Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah, the first 18 dapim, 18 and a half dapim of Rosh Hashanah, talks about all the dinim, Rosh Hashanah, Gan Eden, Gehinom, nice, interesting, juicy stuff. But then after 18 and a half, it starts going Kiddush HaChodesh. What does one thing have to do with the other? So, okay, you want to start with Kiddush HaChodesh, let's start with the first Chodesh. Let's start with the first month. No, they want to start in the middle. Why? Because the last one finished in the middle. Meaning, the Mefarshim talk about it and said, no, it doesn't actually make sense that it's starting in the middle, unless you realize that you read up to now, and the other one was talking about halacha that has to do with the middle month. So sometimes the connection don't make sense to us per se, because we're looking for certain things in a certain structure based on what we've seen in our life, but it always connects. Also, as you learn more and more, you'll see how certain things you didn't understand in the previous tractate, you'll understand by seeing it again in a different tractate. Meaning that you have to read a completely different tractate or two, other ones, 6 months or even 6 years later, to understand something you heard or read before in a different tractate. We see this in Gemara Masechet Megillah. says that we learn from here, it takes 40 years to understand what your rabbi said. Why 40 years? It says Am Yisrael only started valuing Moshe Rabbeinu right before he died. Why? Because they finally understood what he said 40 years ago. They finally understood what he said 40 years ago. And they continue understanding every year more and more of what he said 40 years ago, 40 years ago, 40 years ago, every year. You'll see it also from some of the shiurim. Sometimes you'll have a shiur. If you're a dedicated student, you keep coming, you keep learning, same formula and so on, like some of you have been doing. You'll see that sometimes you hear something in a shiur that point is only going to bring light to a previous point you heard 6 months ago. In a different shiur. But you didn't understand it at the time, and you didn't even think about it enough. But now you heard something that completes the puzzle. And that's how it works with Torah. Torah is something spiritual. It's not based on your memory. It's based on your mesirut nefesh. It's based on your mesirut nefesh. So, the Mishnah has a couple of more Proverbs, but we'll try to, I think we should probably finish tomorrow, right? You guys are kind of tired. There's a lot more to say, but Baruch Hashem, I think you guys you've had enough for the day. Tomorrow we'll do more about Parashat Shavua. Also, we'll finish this Mishnah Be'ezrat Hashem. There is a fantastic chidush from the Gemara Masechet Rosh Hashanah, actually, that has to do with this Mishnah, has to do also with reward and punishment, has to do with this generation, has to do with a lot of different things. But it also answers the very serious question that every person should know the answer to, which is there a point of you're cut off? Meaning, is there a point where somebody can make a sin that's unforgivable? Because this is a very, very important question everybody needs to know. Is there such a thing as an unforgivable sin? Meaning you cannot do tshuva for it.
Suicide.
No, even that you'll eventually do tshuva for, just in a different place. Just in a different place. Huh? There are certain things that are unforgivable. And we have to see it in the Torah. Why is it important to know? Because if I know that something is forgivable, that even if I have the desire to do it, and I fall chas v'shalom for it, I'm not going to get depressed. Why? I know I can do tshuva for it. But if I know there's certain something out there that Hashem says this, no forgiveness. No forgiveness. I'm not going to forgive this. Shem Echem. Hashem, El Rachum V'Chanun. There's no more mercier than Him. He says this, I'm not forgiving. This I need to know. Why? This is what we call in the business world, do not call list. You're not allowed to call these people because they're going to sue you. You should stay away from it. This is something, I don't mess with this one. And it's simple, like he said. It's simple, but you have to have it here. You have to have it here constantly. Is what I'm doing, this desire that I'm fulfilling, classify as this. For example, like he said, Machtir Rabim, causing other people to sin. It's what I'm doing causing other people to sin. Because if it is, I have a very serious problem on my head. I have to start crying like a little baby to Hashem for my foolishness of doing such a thing. This is a very serious thing that people need to know. But we'll also see, I'll tell you guys, of how even such a classification, such a sin, has some leeway, some workable room where you could actually get a reward, enough to get forgiveness to a certain extent, if you do serious tshuva. So this is also in the Gemara. B'ezrat Hashem, we'll go over it. Any questions? Now that I left you in suspense. Okay.
Yeah. How would you do Kiruv when you have grandparents that are not Shomer Shabbat whatsoever? They know about Shabbat, but they come over every Friday night. We drive over.
Right.
how would you do Kiruv for
Uh,
such a situation?
So grandparents, depending on how old they are, if they're old enough where they're not too old, where they still, they're somewhat technology savvy, meaning they watch videos, they're up to tune with things, which is most of our grandparents. Then it's much easier to do kiruv with them than the older generation that is, their biggest technology in their house is a television from 1973. Someone that watches, uses a phone, a smartphone, watches videos and things like that, already kiruv is 90% easier on them. Why? Because you can use the number one tool to do kiruv, which is lectures. So with somebody like this, regardless of what age they are, you have to do two things. One, touch their brain. Provide them information that they don't know. Don't tell them Shabbat is a holy day. They know that. But their definition of holy is different than yours. So first you have to show them something that they haven't seen before of the truth as it is. Second thing is, you have to touch their heart. Because as a person gets older, their desires for certain things deteriorate. Their desires for money deteriorates, desire for sex deteriorates. Biggest desire of all, most dangerous one, is desire for kavod. That increases over time. But kavod comes in different forms. Sometimes kavod, sometimes honor, is simply the older generation asking for attention. And you can give them that attention in form of love. How? Tell them, Saba, Safta, can you watch this video with me? I heard it's really good. Instead of saying, hey, Saba, Safta, watch this, let me know what you think. Say, Saba, Safta, Grandma, Grandpa, let's watch this together. What is it? What is it, honey? You want to watch something with me? What is it? I heard it's a really good movie. It's a really good video. It's only 20 minutes. It's only a half hour. They're going to think, wow, my grandson, my granddaughter wants to spend a half hour with me? Sure, put it on. Put it on. And unless they're haters of both you and the Torah, they'll watch the whole thing. They'll watch the whole thing. So guess what? If you pick the video right, of somebody that's an honest speaker, somebody that provides new information they haven't heard before, and you dedicate the time. Don't just send videos to them like they're strangers. Sit down with them, go to their house, do it at your house, make it so. You'll see people wake up. I have a student in Georgia. He asked me for an idea. What should he do to help people? I told him, listen, you already watch my lectures every week, like clockwork, Baruch Hashem. Helped him a lot. He made a couple of videos to tell people about how our Torah has helped him do tshuva and so on and so forth. So, it's mamash. It's actually, his video helps more than my video, because you see it actually coming to life, the Torah coming to life through him. But anyway, he took an idea. What was the idea? I told him, listen, you already listened to the lectures anyway. What's it to you if you bring some people to watch it with you at your house? He says, great. So that's what he did. Every Tuesday and Wednesday, or I think sometimes it's only Wednesday, sometimes only Tuesday, I'm not really sure, but I know at least once a week, he has a get-together. He invites people to his house, gets some popcorn ready, the screen is ready, and they all watch our shiur Torah live on a big screen. And guess what? The biggest surprise of it all was when he told me his 70 or 71-year-old mother is doing serious tshuva. Serious tshuva. She says, I never felt like this before in my life. You know how difficult it is to do tshuva at 70 years old? It's like moving a mountain with your hand. Why? Because that's your 7 years of history. You're used to it, of not Torah. Now you're changing it. That's amazing. All it required is, Ima, you want to come over my house? For what? Something's wrong? No. I want to watch a thing with you. I want to watch a lecture with you. You want to hang out with me? My son wants to hang out with me? Sure. What mother doesn't want to hang out with her son? She comes, next thing you know, she does tshuva at 70 years old. Shtabach Shemolad. If that's not enough, he just told me 3 weeks ago, his niece, I think 16 years old, 14 years old, 16 years old. She's doing tshuva now. She's doing tshuva. A 16-year-old never knew nothing. Now he's doing tshuva. Shtabach Shemo. Do you understand what this means? Do you understand how extraordinary this is? All you need to care. All you do is care. You have to care just enough to get people to do tshuva. If you care, you'll get people to do tshuva. So it's requires a little bit of being selective with the video as far as who the speaker is. Make sure that you're providing a serious speaker and not one of these teddy bear speakers, because they already have that on their own. You have to get somebody that tells the truth as it is, even though sometimes it hurts, even though sometimes he says things that are not exactly nice to hear, but it's true. And you trust Hashem that this is it. You do a little prayer before you send it, and Be'ezrat Hashem, you'll find people doing tshuva. But you get involved. You get involved with time. You invest time in it. Same thing goes for everybody. Same thing goes for family, for friends. But the biggest thing I can tell you also is a secret for Kiruv is not to only focus on your family. Focus on strangers and make family secondary. And the reason why is because family is much, much more difficult to help do tshuva. Much more difficult to help. And you could easily lose hope and just give up. And that's not what Hashem wants. So in order to keep that fire on, help strangers do tshuva. Why? Because with strangers you'll have a lot more success, and that success will give you the fire to continue with your family. Plus, it'll give you the merit for Hashem to help you with the family. Hashem says to the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 15, verse 19, says, if you bring a precious from a luggard, meaning you help other people do tshuva, you'll be like my mouth. You pray, I fulfill it. So you get other people to do tshuva, you start praying for your grandparents to do tshuva, your parents to do tshuva, everybody to do tshuva, you'll see how the world around you changes. Not overnight, but it happens. And I've seen it myself. I mean, my biggest surprise in my life is how serious my father, who in the beginning when I first started doing tshuva, even though he kept Shabbat, he wasn't exactly the biggest fan in the world of me doing tshuva. He wanted me to just go back to business. Today, Baruch Hashem, he's the most dedicated of all. This is, in my wildest dreams, I couldn't think of such a thing. But that's it. You'll see that if you help others, Hashem will help you with the ones you want. What else?
You said you were learning with the rabbis. Who was your rabbi?
Rabbi Ephraim. Rabbi Ephraim Kachlon. Same one. I've had a few rabbis influence me in certain ways throughout the years. But the main rabbi is Rabbi Ephraim, the rabbi that made me do tshuva.
Who was the Amashpim besides you?
Rabbi Ephraim he's every day, all day for since day one. A few others have Rabbi Mizrahi. Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi has been an extraordinary influence on our life. Rabbi Nisim Yagen has been an extraordinary influence on our life. So there's been a few, but the biggest is Rabbi Ephraim, because I'm practically talking to him every day, a few times a day. Right now, we're going to finish at some point. I'm going to go home, and on the way home, or either when I get home, we're going to talk again, and we're going to learn a little bit.
He's in Israel, right?
Yeah, he's in Israel. He's 7. For him, it's in the morning. For me, it's night, and we're going to learn a little bit, talk a little bit, and then at some point, my body will stop functioning, so I'll have to go to sleep. So then I'll come back to life. Hashem will, Be'ezrat Hashem, give me neshama again in the morning, and Be'ezrat Hashem, I'll talk to him again, and we'll learn a little bit more again. At some point during the day, and that's it. That's the. Sometimes I learn by myself. Sometimes I learn together with him. Point is that you have to occupy your time with something useful. So you try to learn. I wish I could learn more, but Be'ezrat Hashem, try. Yesterday was a good study session, actually, now that I think about it.
What about work? You said work, it's necessary. What about people that want to learn? They can't count on Hashem to give them money? Because they know
Sure. Depends on your emunah. Your ishtadlut, depends on a person. Depends on a person, what are they learning? If they're learning all day, not if they're learning a lot according to them. If they're learning all day, meaning they're occupying their day as if it's a business day. For example, you work, let's say, 9 to 5. It's an 8-hour day, 9-hour day, 10-hour day, whatever. It's a normal hour day. If you study that much, meaning like an avrech studies, solid 10, 12 hours.
Some of us study 3 hours a 13 hours.
I'm talking about serious Avrechim. I'm not talking about Jobnik. Jobnik Avrech, that like the people from the army, they go to the army for 1 day a month. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about serious Avrechim. Serious Avrechim get to the Kollel somewhere around 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning. They do a little bit of praying, or by then or after, and then they start seriously learning somewhere around 9:30, 10, until 6, 7 o'clock at night. Solid, there's maybe an hour and a half break in between. That's it. So they learn a solid, and then they go home, hang out with the family for an hour, and they learn another few hours at night. A real Avrech will study, at least 8 hours a day. At least 8 hours a day. If you can study 8 hours a day, sleep 8 hours a day, and do whatever it is that you want for 8 hours a day,
So whatever, even if you get 1,000 shekels a month, you shouldn't be worried that somebody will take it.
if you're studying 8 hours a day, if you're studying 8 hours a day, and your actions, meaning the way you're behaving, is reflective on those 8 hours a day, meaning it's not that you're studying, like some people study Torah, like it's a, for intellect, meaning like they study Torah like they study a history book. And they know the history book like some of these Civil War reenactors know. I used to have a friend, this guy Mike. He was a Civil War reenactor. He was a history teacher, but he was also a Civil War reenactor. You guys know what a Civil War reenactor? You guys know what Civil War is? Yeah. So they still teach this in school. Civil War. Civil War started America. War. They decided that they killed a bunch of people. The Union. Said that, whatever. History lesson for another day. Anyway, so there was a really, really famous war a few hundred years ago in America to start this pretty much country that you live in. So now, some people like to reenact that war, the North versus the South. Those two sides. So it's the North versus the South. Some people to this day like to buy the uniforms from a couple of hundred years ago and the weapons from a couple of hundred years ago and pretend like they're fighting. And there's actual real events several times a year that these old people get together, and some young ones. Yes, they're bored to life, but the point is they get together and they reenact the whole war as if one side is fighting the other, and there's weapons and so on and so forth. So I had a friend, when I was a kid, who was like 30 years older than me, and he was a history teacher and also a Civil War reenactor. And he knew everything about history, all the dates and the times and what happened on July 4th and every single year that ever existed, and who was the leader of this side and that war, and everything about everything in regards to politics. So if you're studying Torah like that, it's no good. Why? Yes, it's good and important to remember everything, but it's much more important to do everything. Much more important to do what you learn. So there's a lot of people that have a good memory, and they know the halachot. You ask them halachot Shabbat, they could name them off to you. You ask them halachot Sukkah, they'll name them to you. You ask them all types of halachot, they'll name them. But you see how they behave? Am haaretz gamu. Complete ignorant. Right, but it's not just to teach, to actually lasot, exactly lasot, to do it. So a person needs to do it. If you're learning and you're doing, then you're praiseworthy. Yeshrecha. Yeshrecha. Now, how do you know if you're doing? If your learning is changing you. If you stay the same, you're not learning. Doesn't matter how much time you're in front of a book. You could be in front of a book for years. Nothing changes. Why? You're not allowing it to change. Because you make an exception to the rule every 5 seconds. And this one's not relevant. And this one's not for me. And that one's not for me. And every 2 seconds, it's not for me, it's not for me, it's not for me. And yeah, exactly. You became your own posek. You became a disaster. So there's a lot of people like that, unfortunately, that they don't want to have a rabbi. And they decide to become their own rabbi. And it's a very, very serious problem because they could learn a few hours every day for 20 years, but nothing will change. They'll still be a disastrous husband, still be a disastrous business person, still be a disastrous everything, but they feel perfectly fine. They feel perfectly fine. This is unfortunate, because why? What's going to happen? This person is going to get up to the Shamayim, 70, 80, 90 years old, and you get to the Bed Din, all confident, fixing his suit. Why? He studied, he did this. You say, oh, wow, here you are. Wow, you've got a long journey. He's like, yeah, you noticed? Yeah, long, wow, really long, 90 years. 90 years you worked on it. Wow. Yeah, they counted, it's already ready. He goes, yeah, but you went the wrong direction. It's a long journey, but it's the wrong direction. You understand? You went a long direction. You went. That you did. But you went the wrong direction. Why? Because you said yes when it was no. You said allowed when it was not allowed. You said Gan Eden and not Gehenom. You said Gehenom and not Gan Eden. You said the opposite. You said Tameh lo Ta'or, Ta'or lo Tameh. You did the opposite of what Halakha was. So yes, you worked hard, but it was a mistake. Now you have to suffer the consequences. Yeah, you worked really hard to figure out how to name all the medicines and remember all the medicines to give to the patients. Great, good for you, but if you give the patient the wrong medicine, it's all worthless. Understand? Anything else? So, like I said, tonight is the last night here. B'ezrat Hashem, next week, no shiur here, but we'll have a shiur in 2 weeks somewhere. Keep me, follow the internet and be in touch. I'll let you know where the shiur is going to be next Tuesday. Not next Tuesday, two from now. Tomorrow night, where are we? No, I don't know if Breslov Center is getting closed. I'm just not going to do shiurim here anymore, for now. No, it's time for a change. Time for a change. I mean, they asked them. I don't think that they're what they told me. I don't know if what they told me is not what's. I don't know. It doesn't really make a difference to me. So, we did a shurim. Not like anybody pays us. Well, we have to make a change. Once in a while, you have to make a change. I mean, in general, it's good to make a change. You go to different places. Some new neshamot, some new people, influence some new people. But no, there's nothing. No, like Baruch Hashem, I owe them a lot of akarat tov. We're here for the last couple of years.
Unless something is going on here on Tuesday, because Rabbeinu loves Kiruv, and it's always, since I've been here, I always see the shiur here. So
Yeah, I've been here for 2 years, but no, I think it's time for a change. No, Baruch Hashem, I don't have any hard feelings. I'm very grateful for them hosting us for the last couple of years. I wish we could have done even more for the Kehillah itself, but we tried to do what we can. We're here committed every Tuesday. I think I'm rarely missed, Baruch Hashem, if ever. But it's time for a change. It's just simply time for a change. You have to go to a different Kehillah, hopefully affect some more people, get maybe another few neshamot here and there. So, but anyone that wants to come to the shiurim, I'm not going to be that far away. I may be next door, I may be 5 minutes from here. I'm not going to Alaska. You're not going to have to go on a plane. I'm still going to be around somewhere. Baruch Hashem, there's plenty of places. The key is zikuy rabim. Where can you affect the most amount of people? And I think it's the right decision. I think it's perfectly fine. And I owe them a lot of akarat tov. All of you do, that have learned, all the people online. The fact that we're able to do shiur any place is always a blessing. And B'ezrat Hashem, we'll keep doing it. Zikuy Rabim is worth more than 1,000 korbanot. You listen to the shiur for 1 minute, it's worth more than you bring in 1,000 korbanot to Beit HaMikdash. That's how much it is. If people actually knew, Rabbi Akadosh, Rabbi Yehuda Anasi, the one who wrote the Gemara, the Mishnah, all Torah is based on him. He said if people knew value of doing Kiruv on one person, they'd chase people like crazy. They'd stop doing everything else, stop working, stop everything, and just chase people to do Kiruv. If people actually knew. To be honest with you, if I only knew. Me, myself. I'm doing it for 5-6 years. If I actually knew the real value of Kiruv, I would do even more. I don't know how, but I'll find a way. It's extraordinary.
And that's Rosh Bnei Yisrael, you're saying?
This is top of the top. Top of the top. B'ezrat Hashem, tomorrow night we're going to be, I think, down the street, Aventura Isles. Yeah, Aventura Isles. It was 50% chance. So you got it right. Aventura Isles. Anybody wants to come, you have to RSVP. Like I said, tomorrow's shiur is the last shiur for a little while. We'll have another shiur in a couple of weeks, B'ezrat Hashem. But there's going to be some new shiurim online anyway that some of you haven't seen or haven't seen for a while. בסדר, בעזרת השם, זה going to be Torah.
Hashem will
ברוך
bless-
אדוני לעולם, אמן ואמן.